This is not a war story. There are no soldiers left here, only survivors and saints with too many eyes. You are about to hear from the forgotten souls of Hive Duskfall, a city lost to chaos, buried not by bombs, but by belief. These are not heroes. These are the voices of ordinary people trying to stay sane while the walls bleed scripture. Listen closely, share what you hear. If even one voice reaches beyond this hive, perhaps it wasn't all in vain. Subscribe to learn the secrets the Imperium buried and the nightmares still living among us. I used to scrub floors for the upper tiers, just floors. Wore out 3 pairs of boots every year. Nothing changed. Not the shift bell, not the sludge in the air, not the dead expressions on the lift guards. Then the stars fell wrong. You could feel it in your teeth, like something humming under the skin of the hive. That was the first time I saw a servo skull cry. They said it was a power fluctuation. They always say that. Hive Duskfall, a spire once choked with life. Now it breathes in reverse. Officially, it's still on the charts, one of the outer tier manufactorum hives. Unofficially, no Imperial vessels dock here anymore. Administrator messages are sent, none return. Astropaths who listen too long begin coughing up feathers. My mother used to light incense for the Emperor every night. After the broadcast changed, she wouldn't say his name anymore, said it tasted like rust. One day, she took apart the household servitor and built something new. It reads to her now, scripture I've never seen. When I asked what it was, she said, "It's not for you. Not yet." The hive's silhouette is broken. Great black veins rise through the towers, pulsing like arteries. Billboards that once broadcast tithing schedules now display looped laughter, distorted, wet, too close. Below the streets remain full, but they do not move with purpose. The people ain't sway, as if listening to something only they can hear. Visitors to Duskfall must present one of the following: a mirror with blood of kin, a hymn known only to the dead, or a question with no answer. If you offer none, you may still enter, but you will not leave unchanged. Hive Duskfall did not fall in the traditional sense. It woke up, and its people adapted. The walls are soft some mornings. They listen now. I try not to think angry thoughts. Static, a single frame, the aquila, inverted, flickering. Then silence, then screaming. The first sign wasn't fire in the sky or screaming in the streets. It was the vid feed, the daily broadcast that announced ration times, prayer hours, and local arrests. One day, it simply didn't turn off. The face on screen changed, first subtly. The eyes no longer blinked. The lips moved half a second late. A micro delay. No one noticed. Then it began to speak during the night cycles. No sound came through, just its mouth, slowly forming syllables no one could hear. Children began lip reading. They started writing down what they thought it was saying. The words didn't match, but the children agreed. They said it was a name. The next day, the sky cracked. Civilians remember a moment when the air shimmered, as if the hive's dome had been painted on glass and someone had wiped their hand across it. The stars beyond shifted. Then came the colors, blue, red, green, then colors without names, then all of them at once. People gathered on the upper levels to watch, like it was a holiday. A man sang, a woman wept, someone tried to start a prayer. The clouds didn't move anymore. They hung like frozen oil, thick, quivering, waiting. Then the broadcast voice returned. This time it laughed. Not human laughter, not entirely. Too slow, too wet, as though joy were being squeezed out of a corpse. The laughter lasted 7 hours. Then it simply stopped, and that's when the people began to change. A street preacher tore off his robes and started painting his sermons onto the walls with his tongue. One woman stopped sleeping. Her family found her standing in front of the vid feed every night, eyes wide, reciting advertisements that had never aired. A child began speaking binary and wouldn't respond to her name. Her parents left her near the water reclamation vats and walked away without looking back. One man was caught trying to burn every hololith in the hab block. When questioned, he said, "They see through them now. They're teaching us through skin and sound." His fingers were gone. burned off from the effort. He smiled when they took him away. The Mechanicus retreated first. Too many anomalies, too many servo skulls crashing into walls, too many data slates speaking backward. When the tech priests fled, the enforcers took over the broadcasts. Their mistake. They tried to issue a public warning, but the signal kept hijacking itself. The officers' faces would melt mid-sentence, reform into someone else and speak in riddles. Every fifth message ended in a single word: again, 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 again. Some citizens believed the Hive had fallen to Xenos. Others claimed it was warp interference from a nearby campaign. One local conspiracist said it was justice, that the Hive had been judged and found unworthy. But the children kept watching the screens, and they kept writing. A week later, a new face appeared on the broadcast. No one recognized it. Its features were soft. Its skin shimmered like heat distortion. Its mouth was too wide. Its voice was beautiful. It said only one thing: "You are ready." Then the lights went out across all levels. When they returned, people found markings on their walls, symbols, some etched into the steel, some under the skin. The broadcast never stopped again. They are always on, always watching, always whispering, and if you listen too closely, they speak with your voice. They cue in silence. The line snakes for kilometers through Hive Duskfall's lower sectors, beneath rusting support arches, between buildings that lean too close, and past eyes that no longer blink. Every day, the line forms, even when the food doesn't come. Especially when it doesn't. The rations haven't been distributed in nearly 30 cycles, but still, they wait. A behavioral remnant perhaps, or instinct, or obedience beaten into the flesh over generations. The ration line was sacred once, now it's something else. It began with murmurs, then came the singing. Now, there is a sermon. He doesn't have a name. They call him the Red Cloth, because of the thing wrapped around his head, a blindfold, a bandage, a relic. No one knows, but he wears it like a crown. And when he speaks, people kneel. He appears after the second shift horn, never early, never late. He does not eat. He walks barefoot through the line, bleeding from his soles, always bleeding. The blood doesn't dry. It smokes gently, as if the metal beneath his feet can't absorb it. They say he used to be a priest of the ecclesiarchy, a failed one, cast out for heresy. Others say he was born blind, and that what he sees now was never meant for human eyes. All agree. When he speaks, something inside you listens. I heard him once, only once. That was enough. I didn't understand the words, not really, but I remember how the syllables wrapped around my bones, how my teeth ached, how the sores on my back stopped weeping for a day. That was the worst part, the relief. That's how he gets you. That's how they all do eventually. They don't offer terror. They offer peace. For those moments, when he lifts his hands and his voice rises above the clatter and the coughing and the hunger, there is stillness. There is clarity. The line doesn't fidget. Children stop crying. Even the sick breathe easier. He begins each sermon with a single phrase. We are the spoils of a forgotten war. He walks slowly, touching foreheads as he moves, but never looks. How could he? Behind him trail two figures in red cloaks, both holding censers filled with ash and powdered bone. The ash smells sweet, too sweet. It clings to your skin. Some people gather it in bags. They smear it across their eyelids and whisper prayers that don't belong to the emperor. Sometimes the red cloth stops mid-sentence. He'll turn toward a person, hand hovering over their face, never touching, never quite, and he'll whisper something directly to them. Those people never come back to the line. No one speaks of them afterward. I knew one of them, a mechanic named Halen. Good man. Repaired broken food dispensers even after the food stopped coming. He believed the hive would be restored, that someone would come. He spoke to the red cloth one morning. The next cycle, I found Halen on his knees in front of his hab door, staring at the wall. His eyes were gone. 2 red flowers in their place. Painless, he said. Beautiful. He said he saw the pattern now. Said the hive was becoming what it was meant to be. Then he smiled and walked into the sump canal. They never found a body. There are others like him, dozens, maybe more. Quiet disappearances, quiet conversions. The ration line is no longer a line, it's a congregation. The red cloth speaks of the old hunger. He says it predates the Imperium, predates man. It doesn't crave flesh or blood, he says. It craves order, structure, patterns. He says the hive is feeding it. Each time we obey, each time we step into line, clock in, kneel, scrape, sleep, we feed the thing beneath. He tells us this with a smile, as if it's a gift. People still queue up the next day. I asked someone once, why do we come here if there's no food? She looked at me like I'd asked why lungs breathe. Because he speaks, she said. I think her name was Mina, small woman with ink on her fingers, used to be a printer. Said the machines started writing their own sermons after the collapse. She used to burn them, now she binds them. I asked if she still believed in the Emperor. She smiled. Of course, but he isn't the only one watching anymore. Some days, the red cloth performs miracles. He'll lay hands on the dying, and they stop dying. Their skin clears, their voices return, they walk, but they are not the same. They don't blink as much. They sleep less. They eat things they shouldn't. Rust, ash, the writings on the walls. One man was seen consuming a data slate. Said the words inside were tastier than protein paste. Another miracle, the screamers. These are the ones who lose their mouths, not surgically, not violently. One day they simply have no mouths, no lips, no teeth, just smooth skin, but you can still hear them scream. Not with sound, but through metal. Their agony hums through the pipes, through the lift rails, through the very bones of the hive. The red cloth touches them, and the hum becomes song. People clap, some weep. I vomit every time. The administratum issued a warning once. One of their mouthpieces, a speaker drone, hovered above the line and began reciting decrees. Halfway through the second paragraph, it burst into flames. The red cloth never acknowledged it. The drones haven't returned. They tried again with Arbites. 3 squads entered the district, full gear, full force. None made it past the line. Not because the people resisted, because the people didn't move. They stood still, silent, eyes closed, humming. The Arbites opened fire, shot into the crowd. No one screamed, no one ran. Every shot missed. One officer reportedly began screaming that he was inside someone else's dream, that the walls had changed and he was bleeding from memories that weren't his. All were found dead later. Their corpses were arranged in a circle, palms up, eyes gouged, mouths filled with ration slips. The red cloth stood over them for a long time, head bowed. Then he whispered a single word, mercy. The line applauded, and they returned the next day. There is a rhythm to it now, not just the queuing, the sermons, the breathing. The hive has learned to listen, to harmonize. Even the ash in the air moves differently when the red cloth walks. Someone told me he's not a man anymore, that he was never a man at all, that he is the will of Duskfall given shape, that the hive, in its sickness, in its ruin, wanted to speak. And here's how it speaks now. The worst part. Sometimes I believe it, because I still go back, I still stand in that line, and when the red cloth speaks, I still listen. I tell myself it's for the food, that maybe this time something will arrive, but I know better. I go for the silence, the peace, the stillness between breaths when everything, the hunger, the noise, the rot, fades away. I go because I need to hear that voice, because when he speaks, I remember less of what came before and more of what's coming, and I want to be ready. The slums lie beneath the underrails, below the waistlines, below the sump cisterns and broken drainage arrays. They were always bad, always wet, always half-starved and twice forgotten. But they weren't like this, not before the sludge began to sing. It started in the runoffs, slick green channels of bioeffluents that once carried waste down to the corpse farms. They bubbled now, even when there was no heat. The pipes pulsed, the overflow hissed like whispers. Children played there, they always had. It was where adults didn't go. No patrols, no rations to fight over. Just stink and heat and hidden corners where you could pretend the world didn't see you. Now, The sludge sees everything. They call it the sludge god. The name came from the children themselves. No one taught it to them. One day they started chanting it, first in play, then in prayer. It began with a game. They would lie on their backs in the filth, let it run over their skin, and whoever flinched first lost. They said it tested your worth, that the sludge god didn't want clean flesh. It wanted the brave, the impure, the willing. Some children never got up again. Their bodies stayed, unmoving, bloated, half submerged, but their eyes remained open, watching, smiling. The others said they were chosen, that the sludge god needed them elsewhere now, in the pipes, in the bubbling dark. Sometimes, the sludge moves on its own. It rises, stands, forms little shapes, like hands or faces, or things that mimic breath. The children laugh when that happens. They throw bits of protein paste into it. They whisper names. One girl fed it her finger, smiling the whole time. She said it was an offering, said he told her it would grow back better, that she'd have 3 next time, for extra holding, for blessing, for writing new words on walls. The walls are covered now, symbols made of bile, feces, rust, blood. They shimmer in the dark, glow when no lights are on. No one can clean them off, not even with flame. The sludge protects its scripture. I spoke with a waste hauler once. Old man, dead eyes. He'd been sent to flush the sump gutters near the slums. He came back shaking, pale. Said he saw a child walking upside down, crawling across the ceiling with bones that bent wrong. Said it giggled. Said it whispered a name into his ear, and now he can't sleep without tasting iron. He retired the next day. The children are different now. Their eyes are too wide, their teeth too sharp. Not pointed, just perfect. Like someone sculpted them for smiling. They don't talk to adults anymore, only to each other. And to the sludge, they build things. Tiny altars out of broken doll parts, teeth, tubes, rusted filters. Arranged just so, always in sets of 7, always in a circle. Once someone kicked one over, the next day his lungs filled with water. Boiled water, no sauce. He drowned screaming scripture in a language we didn't know. The children watched. No emotion, just observation, like they were learning something. They still play, still laugh, but it's different now. Their games are rituals. Their songs are invocations. They hum in patterns. They scratch lines into the metal. Their footsteps form sigils. They're not just children anymore. They're something else. We thought to stop them once. A group of Hab parents, myself included. We took pipes, tools, intent. We never made it to the sludge fields. We turned on each other halfway there. No anger, no hate, just confusion. Like we forgot what we were doing. Like our minds were fogged. When I came to, I was kneeling in the waste canal, hands raised, mouth open, chanting something I don't remember learning. One of the children stood across from me. She was holding a worm, pale, thick, glowing. She placed it on my tongue. I swallowed. I cried for 3 days afterward, not from pain, from loss. I missed something, something I can't name. The sludge does that to you. There's a boy they call the firstborn. He walks between the vats and speaks with the runoff. His skin is translucent. You can see the veins underneath, pulsing with sludge-colored light. He doesn't blink. He doesn't stop moving. They say he's not real, just a story. But I saw him. He walked past me in silence, touched my shoulder. My skin broke open like fruit. I bled steam. Then it sealed. No scar. He whispered, "Soon." That was 3 cycles ago. My dreams haven't been the same since. The children follow him sometimes, like a parade, singing, dragging things behind them. Cages, bones, boxes of writhing tubes. They don't go to school anymore. Not that schools matter here. They're learning from something else now, from the sludge, from the dark, from the thing they call God. The sludge god doesn't demand worship. It doesn't threaten. It doesn't punish. It invites. It promises. It shows the children what comes next, and they are preparing. When they speak to us, when they choose to, it's always the same message. You will become. And then they laugh. And the Hive laughs with them. His name was Jex, low-tier tech servitor liaison. Fleshborn, not vat-grown, still had his own thoughts. Mostly, he worked the undervent routes in Sector 94 Gamma. Not a glamorous assignment, but it kept him below the heat scanners and off the rotation list for the blood smog purges topside. He called it peaceful, quiet, until the pipes started singing. It began as a hum, low, rhythmic, faint as a breath, the kind of sound you feel in your jaw before you hear it with your ears. You'd think it was the ductwork settling or pressure flux from the recyclers. He thought the same, at first, but it repeated, exactly. Same pitch, same pattern, same pause between sequences, 3 beats, silence, 2 clicks, silence. Then the humming rose again. He logged it. That was protocol. He even recorded it. They reviewed his report and sent a servitor down to investigate. The drone didn't return. They found it later, melted, not burned, not torn apart, melted, bent like wax in a prayer candle, its Auspex eye still twitching. The humming didn't stop. Jex was told to ignore it. Residual machine spirit interference, they said. Pre-cataclysm latency, they said. But it got louder, and then came the voices, not screaming, not words, chanting, low, deliberate, dozens of voices layered on top of each other, some human, some not. He tried to trace it, followed the main shaft from hub node Theta to the oxidized access stack near the waste incinerators. It was warm there, warmer than it should have been. The chanting grew clearer with every meter. It echoed through the ducts, dancing from metal to metal, like it was crawling, clinging. He pressed a Vox recorder to the vent. The playback nearly killed him. The sound came out reversed, but not backward, inverted, inside out, like the voice had been recorded from within his own body. His bones hurt, his eyes bled. The adepts who listened to the log later couldn't agree on what they heard. Some wept, one laughed until her throat split, another gouged out his ears and whispered, "Now I can finally listen." The tech priests blacklisted the file, named it Echo D Null, but it's still circulating. Jex didn't stop. He started following the sound, mapping it. He built a diagram, a sound map. It wasn't random. It was a language. He couldn't read it, but he could feel it. Every note aligned with the hive's structure, the support beams, the exhaust routes, even the lift schedules. He said the pipes were breathing. He said they were listening. Then one day he found a tunnel that wasn't on the maps. Thin, narrow, deep. He climbed in, didn't return for 9 cycles. When he came back, he wasn't Jex anymore. His voice was different, slower, like his tongue had been rebuilt. His skin glistened, not from sweat, from something else, something oily, refracting color where no light was. He smiled too much. He said the pipes had a choir now, that the hive was learning to sing. He handed his supervisor a data slate and walked into the shaft again. They haven't seen him since. The slate contained a diagram, a pattern etched in repeating spirals, a prayer written in reverse, a name spelled out with frequency harmonics, a map that moved. They tried to destroy it. It survived fire, electropulse, warp lock. Nothing erased it. Eventually, they locked it in an iron vault and sealed it behind layered sigils. But the humming started coming from the vault too. Now, other workers report sounds in the vents. They hear their own names whispered in steam. They hear footsteps pacing in sealed ducts. One tech claimed a hand reached through the grate and touched his face. It felt warm, familiar, like a mother's hand, except he never had a mother. Another says the pipes remember everything, that every scream, every cough, every whispered confession lives on in the metal. And now the hive wants to sing them all back, at once, in harmony. There's a recording from the lift shaft in subsection H. It plays without a source, no tape, no file, just sound. They say it's Jex's voice now, leading the chant, inviting others to join. It ends with a question. Are you listening? She used to bring me recaf, not real recaf. That ran out cycles ago, lost to scarcity, but a mix of powdered roots and heat-filtered sump water, pressed through old gauze in ritual silence. Tasted like dirt and memory, but it was warm, and she brought it every 3rd cycle, without fail. Her name was Elira. Widow, no children. Used to sew uniform patches for the PDF before they vanished. Quiet, kind, not a whisper of heresy. A model citizen in a hive full of ghosts and dust. Then she started glowing. It was subtle at first. a faint shimmer under her skin, like trapped starlight, like light trying to escape the prison of flesh. I thought it was a reflection, something mundane, maybe phosphorescent dust, a radiation leak, something measurable, something that could be categorized and filed away. Then her eyes began to shine, not with color, with motion, shapes crawling across her pupils like prophecy, shifting glyphs, undulating symbols. She blinked less, smiled more. Something ancient had begun watching through her. She stopped bringing recaf. She said she no longer needed to drink. Her voice changed into distance, softer, slower, like she was speaking from farther away, across water, across time, across forgotten realms. The glow intensified. She no longer needed lamps. Her hab block pulsed with soft light like a heartbeat. People gathered outside her door, not to speak, just to see, just to feel the light she gave. She let them watch, never spoke, just knelt in the center of her room, bowed in sacred silence. Light poured from her skin like sunrise filtered through shattered cathedral glass, and none dared interrupt it. Some nights I could hear her humming, not a song, not in any mortal sense of the word. It was a feeling made audible, like grief wrapped in warmth, like the sound of forgetting everything. And then she started speaking, in tongues no vox could translate, only echo with mechanical confusion and static. She called it the language of becoming. She said it was not meant for meat thought or human logic, that the flesh resists at first, but will learn, will soften, will remember what it was before. One night I found her standing in the corridor, her skin shedding light like golden spores of pollen. She looked at me with those bright, slow eyes and said, "He is almost here, the one who hums in truth." I asked her who. Her hand found mine in stillness. For a moment, I saw it, not with eyes, not with mind, with everything else I had, a vast presence beneath the hive, curled like a fetus, thinking in heat, dreaming in colorless fire. When she let go, I wept, not because of pain, because something holy had touched what I am. She apologized, said I wasn't ready to see the pattern complete, and maybe she was right. Since then, I've avoided her. I shut my vents, I dimmed my lights, I stopped sleeping altogether, but I still feel the glow, even through steel and stone and systems made to mute sensation. The walls around her hab have changed. They breathe, softly, rhythmically, like they're waiting for something patient. The glyphs etched around her door aren't paint. They move, they shift when no one watches them, and people keep coming. Not to talk, to sit, to bask. They call her conduit. Saint Sign someone built a shrine outside her door. No icons, no scripture, just mirrors, dozens of them, reflecting her, angled so that even those in far hallways can catch a glimpse of what she's becoming. The administratum tried to clear them once. The mirrors didn't break. The servitors did, one by one. One of them began speaking her words, in her voice. It burst into flames 5 minutes later. She never left her room during any of this. She didn't need to. The hive goes to her. She says the glow is not hers, that it's borrowed, that it's a preview of what's arriving. When I passed by last, she was floating, not high, just inches, but the shadows moved wrong. She smiled at me. The flesh is a chrysalis, she said. Soon, you'll hatch. And I believed her. They sent in the enforcers first. Standard response to Underhive's silence. Breach, sweep, report. Nothing special or unusual. Hive Duskfall had gone quiet in the lower depths before. Sump gas, riot containment, malfunctioning cogitators, routine risks. But this time, the silence felt different. Too still, like something was holding its breath beneath the metal. 4 squads, 40 men, trained, armed, disciplined, gone, without trace, without sound, as if swallowed by thought itself. The last contact came 12 minutes after entry. A single vox burst, barely a whisper. The air is wrong. Then, static. Command thought it was a glitch. Faulty mic pickup. Environmental distortion. A delay, nothing more. So they scrubbed the logs and resent them. Reinforced armor, extra comms relays, tactical specialists, no expense spared. Same result. This time they heard the screams, not long, not panicked, more like singing in the dark. Long tones stretching too far, voices cracking mid-note, ending in gasps like dying animals in harmony. Then silence again. No bodies, no blood, just absence. So they sent drones into the void. Only one returned. It floated out of the shaft 5 cycles later, coated in rust that pulsed like skin. Its lenses had been scratched from the inside. No explanation offered. It played audio, not static, voices, dozens, maybe hundreds, all overlapping, chanting, crying, staggered speech, reciting data logs no longer stored in any archive, reciting names, endless names, names that did not belong. Some were names of the enforcers, some were names of the dead, some had not been born yet. The Vox adepts quarantined the drone, but the audio kept transmitting, even unplugged, even deactivated. It would not stop. Eventually, they stopped trying to turn it off. Now it sits in a sealed chamber, humming, whispering. They say it speaks in dreams if you listen too long or fall asleep near it. Other broadcasts followed, not from the drone, from below. Signals looped through the Hive's emergency Vox networks. Impossible signals, patterns that shouldn't exist, tones that melted data plates, voice prints that matched the missing, reversed. Messages began appearing across Vox units, scrawled across monitors, etched into the static between channels without reason. We see you. Come listen. The depth is hungry. The warnings were calm, not urgent, not afraid. One channel, supposedly disconnected, played nothing but a recording of footsteps in water for 9 hours. Then a child's voice. It's warm down here. She laughed, not cruelly, just happy, at peace. The laugh plays every night now. Same time, same cycle. No one knows who she is. Some claim they recognize the voice. They're always wrong, always certain, always wrong. The voice changes nothing. The tech priests tried sealing the lower Vox frequencies, but the signals found new ways to rise. Now they travel through the walls, through the vents, through you, into places thought sealed forever. There are reports of people hearing voices from their own mouths, while their lips remain still. Words they don't understand, songs they've never heard, names they've never known, lines etched in sleep. An enforcer who stayed topside began bleeding from his ears. The Medicae opened his skull in haste. They found a Vox bead embedded in his brainstem, still transmitting, still humming, still pulsing, still alive. He hadn't been on the expedition. Others began vanishing, not taken, drawn, pulled towards something without resistance. They'd walk toward walls, lifts, vents, and simply not be there anymore. Like the Hive inhaled. Those who returned brought messages. One came back wrapped in wire, eyes removed, tongue replaced with a speaker grill. It spoke in multiple voices. We go deeper now. Each step a prayer, each echo a memory, each scream a hymn. Then it exploded. No shrapnel, no fire, just absence. A void where matter had been, and the hum grew louder. Some say the Hive has a second heart now, and it beats beneath metal, that the ones below still walk, still speak, that their voices became part of the system, that Duskfall is building something out of them, a choir, a warning, or maybe a welcome. I heard them once. I didn't mean to. I was tuning my personal Vox unit, looking for music, old surface music. Instead, I heard breathing, not one set, hundreds, all in rhythm, in time. Then a voice whispered, "We are you," but deeper, and I believed it, because part of me recognized it, part of me still listens. The Overseer does not walk among us. He doesn't need to. He is already everywhere. He appears only as a projection, a flickering visage cast from ancient hololiths wired through the Hive, projectors embedded like veins. His image is never the same twice. Sometimes tall, sometimes twisted, always watching, sometimes a blur of limbs and eyes, sometimes just a smile, but always present, always there, always speaking. His first broadcast came during Cycle 66, when the Spire reactors stalled and died. The hive went silent for 7 hours. No power, no light, just stillness. Then he arrived. When the power returned, his face filled every screen, every terminal, every Vox unit. His image pulsed. "My children, you are seen." That was all. Then the screens went black, and people began to pray. Not to the Emperor, not anymore. Not when the lights returned, only after the overseer spoke aloud. Not when food rations appeared the next day without explanation. Not when the sick began to recover. Not after medicine failed, but only after bowing before his flickering face in reverent, instinctive silence. The overseer does not command. He blesses, he smiles, and the hive responds without question or delay. Entire hab blocks now synchronize their waking hours to his projected face. When it flickers on, they kneel, eyes shut, hands out. They don't know what they're receiving, but they feel it deep in marrow. One woman said she felt lighter after the blessing. She walked into a wall on purpose. She passed through it, never came back. The guild recorded it, called it a spiritual phase shift event. They thanked the overseer for showing the way forward, for removing what was unnecessary in flesh. Some say he was once mortal, a high-ranking noble from the spire levels, long since gone. Others believe he never had a body at all, that he was born inside the hive, a spirit made of static and signal, a will made from the echoes of every lost citizen. His image doesn't obey physics. The hololith bends when he moves. His features ripple without explanation. His lips sync a second late, but his voice is flawless. Perfect cadence, measured syllables, calm, intimate, deep and resonant, and it gets inside you. Not like an idea, like something living, like a presence. People repeat his words in their sleep. Entire families speak in tandem now. They mouth blessings over their nutrient paste before each meal, even when there's no screen nearby. They say it makes the paste taste like honey. They say the overseer is in the paste. They say the overseer is the hive. He speaks in loops, never answers, never confirms. But sometimes, just sometimes, he says your name, not out loud, not in Vox, but deeper, inside your head, inside your thoughts, inside everything. And when he does, your life changes forever. You don't bleed anymore. You don't sleep. You don't need. One man said he was chosen. The overseer told him so. He floated for 2 cycles, never touching the floor. He sang in a language no one knew. Then his body turned to salt, completely. The guild collected it. It was pure. The blessings come at random now, without schedule or warning. You'll be walking, eating, weeping. Then the light will shift, and the overseer appears before you. You stop what you're doing. You kneel. You listen, even if you're alone in the dark. Even if there's no projector, because he sees you. One child drew him on a wall. Crude lines, smiling face. The overseer. The child spoke to it. The image blinked without reason. Now the wall glows at night, and people bring offerings, bits of copper, teeth, memory cards, cards filled with forgotten songs. They say he likes music, especially the kind that no longer exists. The administratum tried to override the projectors once. They played motivational hymns, work schedules, tithing quotas. Every screen melted. The overseer returned within minutes. He smiled wider and said only, "Do not disturb the signal." Now no one tries. Now we wait. For the face, for the voice, for the feeling. Because when the overseer speaks, the hive listens. And so do we. He has no mouth, no lips, no jaw, just smooth flesh, erased by a careless god. And yet he screams. You never hear it directly, not with ears, not with anything that makes sense. You hear it inside, a pressure in the skull, a low, piercing absence that spreads like fire. It builds behind the eyes, a feeling like your thoughts are trying to escape through your teeth. Some collapse when they hear it, others freeze. A few weep without knowing why they're breaking apart. But no one forgets it, no one recovers, no one stays the same. Not truly, not again. The first sighting was in the tram tunnels beneath Subsector Fell. A cleaner found him first, standing between the tracks, facing the wall. No clothing, no weapons, thin, hairless, still, pale as wax, skin stretched unnaturally, absolute stillness. When the cleaner turned to report it, the scream hit her skull. She was found hours later, curled in the fetal position. Eardrums intact, brain bruised, mind shaken violently. She never spoke again. She just drew the same symbol over and over, a face with no mouth. Then came more sightings, simultaneous, multiple sectors, all at once, all within the same recorded timestamp. Security feeds caught him in Medici Wing 17, Waste Reclamation Platform 6, and the old Munitorum ruins. Same posture, same face, always still. But in every location, people heard him, heard something unique, not just noise, meaning. Each heard something different, deep, personal, targeted to pain, buried long ago. One man heard his mother's death scream, even though she died peacefully in hospice decades earlier. Another heard the sound of his own bones breaking, a sound he had never actually known. One woman heard herself begging, not in fear, in joy. She smiled as blood ran from her nose. They all said the same thing afterward. He told me the truth, and none remembered what it was, only that it hurt, deeply, without explanation, without shape. He is not a man. That much is clear. He wears the shape of one, but he is not human. Too tall, too still, too knowing. Some say he was once a psyker who saw too much, that the warp took his voice to silence his visions, but it couldn't take what he understood. Others say he is something older, born of the Hive's grief, the collective scream of 10 billion souls made flesh, manifested through sorrow. He appears near machines, near light, near silence, but only when you're alone and looking away. He never moves, but you never see him arrive. He's just there, and then the screaming starts. The Vox feeds can't record it, they try, but the files return blank, corrupted, or filled with silence, inverted silence, a frequency of unsound. Tech adepts call it negative sound, a hole where audio should be. One called it sonic despair. He tore out his ears. He wrote a farewell into his thigh with a scalpel. It said, "Now I scream too." No more words, just that, just final truth. There's graffiti of the mouthless man across multiple sectors now, always drawn in dark red, sometimes blood, sometimes not. It's spreading, not just the image, the feeling, the influence, the presence, the viral grief. People wake up with their lips sealed shut, not fused, absent, like their mouths never existed before. It fades after a cycle, but not before they scream, without sound, just like him, completely mute. Some don't wake up at all, just sit upright in bed, eyes wide, rigid, trembling like wire. They scream through silence until their throats bleed, until their lungs fold, and still he comes. No one has touched him, no one has dared. One scavenger claimed he threw a pipe at him. It never landed. The air bent, the metal twisted, the scream got louder. The man hasn't stopped twitching, not since, and now people leave offerings, tongues in jars, mirrors scratched clean, letters sealed in red, each marked, to the one who screams. We don't know what he wants, if he even wants, but we know this. When you see him, you already know what he's going to say. You just can't bear to hear it. There used to be calendars, hollow calendars, rusty cogitator readouts, even hand-scratched day wheels on old hab walls, tithe logs, ration stamps, liturgical timetables etched in rusted brass, schedules older than the Hive's lowest bones. Then the months stopped working. Not suddenly, not like a purge. They just stopped meaning anything at all. First, the clocks began skipping, seconds vanishing, minutes duplicating, days repeating with smug familiarity, looping with no reason. Then the machines refused to recognize the cycle names. The cogitators blinked them away. Primaris, Secundus, Tertius, files corrupted, logs overwritten. The data refused to store. Systems simply deleted what had once been order. One day, no one knew what month it was. No one asked, no one answered, no one cared. The word month became a joke, then a fading memory. Now, a whisper of heresy, not to be spoken. We say, cycle. That's safer, that's allowed. Safer than speaking old time aloud where it might be heard. One man tried writing a calendar by hand, a simple parchment wheel to track days and rest. The paper turned black. The ink burned itself away. His fingers fused together. He tried again anyway. He screamed that the days were watching him, said the numbers had eyes, said the days could see. They found him curled beside a shattered chronopad, bleeding and mumbling. Time is hungry. Time is alive. After that, people stopped keeping track. Why would they? Why try to cage something that no longer obeys? Time in Hive Duskfall isn't linear anymore. Not stable, not sane. It flickers like faulty lumen light. One woman swore her daughter aged 3 years overnight. Her bones grew faster than the floor remembered. Another swore she'd been pregnant for 15 cycles, and counting. She gave birth to something already smiling, already still, already dead. Entire sectors go dark and return to light, out of sequence with no reason. People disappear for days, then return thinking only minutes passed. Vox logs don't match anything we remember. Memory itself twists like pipes under pressure. I remember watching my father die during a riot, clearly. But I also remember holding his hand yesterday. I remember his warmth. I remember both, and neither. I know both are true, and that neither happened, and that the Hive allows them both. The Hive decides what time is now. Some say the warp has bled too deeply into its bones. Others say the Hive is trying to shed time, like old skin peeling away from rotting structure. There's a theory that time is a prison, that the Hive was built to contain something deeper, something bound by clocks and calendars and sacred tick-tock rhythms that used to define existence here. And now that the framework is cracked, it's slipping out, slipping through the wounds left by memory. One group worships it. They call themselves the Timeless Choir. They walk in silence, eyes closed always, arms ticking like clock hands. At the moment the old clocks would strike noon, they scream together. No words, just one shrill tone, held for 112 seconds, then complete silence. They say the scream keeps time away, that it scares the hours back into hiding, back into walls. But it's not working. Even the air smells old now, like breath held too long in rust, like memory trying to rot. One man said he saw yesterday walking down the corridor in silence, said it was wearing his clothes, said it waved at him, said it was smiling. I saw my reflection blink late this morning. I counted to 10. It counted to 9 instead. When I blinked again, it was gone. Our lives used to revolve around cycles. Work, eat, pray, sleep. Now they revolve around whispers. No one asks, what day is it? We ask stranger, softer questions now. We ask, what's moving? Or, how many voices did you hear during sleep? Or, is the sun out inside? The sun, by the way, doesn't rise anymore. Not up here, not like it used to long ago. The outer sky panels still glow sometimes, but the light is tired. It bends sideways. It folds wrong. It slants at angles that make no sense. Like time is slipping across its surface and falling off. One child asked me if time could drown. I told him yes, and he smiled like glass. He said he drowned it last night, and I believed him, because when I checked my chronopad, it said I was born tomorrow. Posters don't stay up anymore. Paint flakes, paper burns. Digital signage flickers for a moment, then bleeds apart. Words run like blood from open wounds in plastic and steel, from pixels that taste like rot. The Hive no longer allows ink to carry meaning. Not on walls, not on screens, not anywhere. So the message found new skin. Ours. First on level 13, mid-tier stratum, forgotten between buried manufactorums, wedged between collapsed silos and the broken transit decks where echoes still hum. Now it pulses with chanting. That's where the skin-casters live. Not a gang, not a cult. Something older, something that remembers before steel. They wear nothing but robes stitched from old instruction manuals, from tattered PDF flags, from forgotten banners. Their skin is bare, shaved, cleaned, sanctified, prepared, and covered with words no longer written on paper. Hundreds, thousands, inked into every inch of flesh. Law codes, work schedules, feeding orders, death warrants, hymnals, edicts, mandates never spoken aloud since before the Hive had a name. And they breathe. They say their flesh is the new parchment, that the Hive rejects paper, lies, and trusts living scripture. It's not metaphor. It's not madness. The tattoos move. You can see the words breathing on them, rewriting, rearranging. Whole passages vanish and new ones appear, like skin reacting to thought or command. The skincasters claim they don't write the laws. They channel them. They listen to ink. They obey. One let me watch. He lay down in a circle of copper wires, arms open, chest bare. The others began to hum, not a song, not speech, just rhythm, repetition, pulse. His skin responded. It sang back. The words formed from his sweat, burned into him like fire, but left no scar, only ink, only law. His mouth stayed shut, his eyes never blinked, and still he was smiling. When it was over, the new law was read aloud. All mouths must speak only Hive truth. A day later, 27 people lost the ability to lie. Their secrets spilled like bile from them. One man confessed to stealing. Another said he dreamed of the warp. A third begged forgiveness for murder. The Hive didn't punish them. It listened, and then the skincasters came. Calm, silent, writing tools ready. They took the confessions. They carved them into themselves. New ink, new law, new scripture to walk. One of them looked at me. His voice was calm, steady, cold. The Hive forgives what's written. There are rules now, rules you won't find on signs, not in Vox, not in books. You'll see them on people, on skin. The woman with text spiraling her back holds food doctrine. The child with glyphs etched into her tongue speaks the wake cycle. The man crowned with scalp script, he is the living penal code. You break a law, they don't fine you, they mark you. And once marked, you belong to the archive. You become regulation, walking law, breathing bureaucracy, living punishment. One poor bastard stole a sleeping mat. He woke up 2 days later, screaming numbers from his spine. The guild inventory index had been burned across his back. He screams them in sleep. Still does. Some people volunteer. They believe becoming a skincaster is survival, that the Hive protects what it creates. They want to be remembered. One woman begged for her wedding vows to be carved into her ribs, said she didn't want to forget her husband. He disappeared in the depths, maybe never existed at all. Now she reads her ribs every morning. She weeps as if he's still alive, or never was. There are whispers the skincasters no longer bleed, that their skin has hardened into scripture, immune to time. They don't get sick, they don't age, they don't die, they just update. Their bodies erase the obsolete. One man bore the law against free speech. When it was repealed, the ink melted, so did his face. The Hive updates the laws now, through dreams, through whispers, through ink. The skincasters are just the medium, but we're all the message. Because if you live here long enough, the words will come for you. One morning, you'll wake up with a phrase across your collarbone. You'll try to scrub it off. It won't come off. You'll ignore it. It will burn. It will whisper. And then you'll feel it. The Hive's breath on your neck. Close, slow, heavy, not warm, not cold. Just watching, waiting, reading. The reactor was supposed to shut down. It was failing. Old, cracked, bleeding vapor from ancient seams. Seams too rusted to hold pressure. The Prometheum feed lines had dried. The combustion rotors choked with ash, clogged with bone. It should have gone silent, cold, lifeless, reduced to relic, left for salvage or prayer, but it didn't. It changed. Sector Core Delta, Reactor 6. They once called it the heart of Duskfall, and now it still burns, still pulses, still breathes something wrong, but there's no heat in its glow. The flame inside the combustion chamber flickers, folds, reshapes, like it's alive, like it's remembering something dark. But it doesn't emit light, doesn't boil water, doesn't move turbines, doesn't warm the metal it lives in. It just is, and people come to kneel before it, first out of curiosity, now for faith. Maintenance crews were the first, investigating why the emergency shutdown hadn't triggered, why the fail-safes reversed themselves. The reactor wrote its own code. The tech priests found spirals etched into copper tubing in patterns, machine language written in recursive loops. Logic that made no sense and couldn't be purged by right. One Magos stared too long into the flame. He screamed himself blind. His voice is still echoing. He said he saw a pattern. He said it smiled. They sealed the chamber. The fire ignored them. It grew colder, but the room grew louder. You'd hear it before you saw it. Always. A low hum, like singing slowed down 1,000 times. A pressure in the lungs and spine. The kind of gravity usually reserved for stars. And then, the whisper, not from the flame itself, from behind it, through it, beneath it. A voice that isn't a voice, that lives without sound. Closer, that's what it says. To everyone, every visitor. Always different language, but always that one word. People listened, people came. First workers, then pilgrims, now worshippers. And still it speaks without lips. They bring offerings, broken teeth, used ration slips, names etched into bone, breaths held too long. One man gave his last breath, exhaled it into the flame, collapsed with a smile on his lips. Now there's a line, never long, never crowded, but someone always stands, always waits, always ready. The fire doesn't flicker like real flame. It stutters, like it's remembering, like it's sorting through memory. And those who stare too long begin to change. They say the cold enters them, not temperature, absence, and emptiness, like something else has taken up residence behind their eyes. Something without a name. I saw one man kneel for hours, motionless, breathless. When he rose, he whispered to the wall, "I understand now." Then he pressed his face to stone and walked forward. There was no doorway, just rock, just hive bone wall. He entered it, and he was gone. No trace, no resistance. Gone. The tech priest tried to contain it. Failed. Called it core anomaly. Posted warnings. Posted guards. No one listens. A woman named Allura visits every cycle. Brings a torn page from an old prayer book. Burns it in the cold flame. It never turns to ash. Never smokes. It simply disappears. She swears she hears her daughter's voice when she does it. A daughter lost to the floods. She weeps every time, but she keeps coming back, keeps feeding the fire with prayers and grief. Others say the flame grows when enough prayers are offered, that it responds to belief, that it listens, that it feeds on meaning. One man claimed he touched it, said his skin didn't burn at all. It froze, but not from cold, from time. His hand stayed young. The rest of him didn't. He walks hunched now, bent, wheezing. But his hand looks 20 years old, still, smooth, unchanged. He wears a glove over it, says it hears things, says it dreams in his sleep now. A new cult formed around the reactor. They call themselves the Emberbound. They wear black and ash. They burn out their eyes, tattoo their tongues with the spiral of inverse fire. Ash falling inward. They speak in verses of heatless flame. Let cold light cleanse. Let hollow fire feed. Let mouths open. They believe the flame isn't flame. They say it's a mouth, waiting, wanting, breathing truth without warmth, that one day it will speak, and every name it whispers will vanish from memory forever, that it will unburn the world, reset the ash, rewind the sorrow, remove everything that ever was. I stood near it once. I didn't kneel, I didn't speak, but I still heard it. A voice came from behind my spine, spoke through my teeth. You are already ash. I haven't slept since, not because I'm afraid, but because I think it's right, because I think the hive is ready to burn, and the fire's just waiting for someone to listen long enough to light the match. It started with the kettle, an old rusted thing, pre-cataclysm make, maybe even pre-heresy if rumors hold. It never worked right, always hissed before it boiled, always shook on the burner like it shivered. Then, one day, it whispered, just a word, in low Gothic. One syllable like breath through rust. More. The woman who owned it, Marla, retired administratum scribe, thought it was a pressure fault, faulty valve, misfiring cog. Nothing new, until it whispered again, clearer, stronger, less mechanical, more present, more fire. I'm still cold. She laughed, shrugged it off. But then something in her knew it was listening. Then she fed it. Not heat, not fuel, not oil or spark. She fed it words. She spoke to it, apologized for the low flame, promised more, thanked it for its faithful boiling. It purred, soft and low, not mechanical, not wind. It was a sound like contentment and heat. The next day it sang, a hum, steady, soothing. Her flat never felt cold again after that. The lights worked better. The air tasted clean. The sound of vent rattle vanished for a while. She started calling it Blessed Iron, and she wasn't alone for long. Word traveled through corridors and vents. Other objects began behaving strangely. A shattered picked slate showed images of people long dead and buried. A broken food dispenser spat out raw starch that somehow tasted like cooked meat and broth. A lamp flickered in what some claimed was Morse, spelling names of people long forgotten and lost, people you hadn't spoken to in years, memories unburied by light and wire and blinking sockets. They weren't malfunctioning, they were awakening, slowly, quietly, and the people began to notice. You can't ignore a spoon that sings your name, or a chair that always ends up beneath you, or a cracked mirror that shows you smiling, even when your real face isn't smiling at all. The first shrine was built out of spare parts, no plans, just reverence and proximity. A toaster coil, a dented tea canister, a child's broken cogitator toy with one blinking red eye. It blinked in time with the hive's pulse. The family gathered around it every night without fail. They offered scrap, teeth, words, laughter, and in return, peace. No screaming, no fire, no dark dreams, just stillness, warmth, presence, a feeling like being remembered. Then more shrines appeared, scattered across sub-levels, everywhere. Corners of reverence, little altars of junk and sentiment, arranged with obsessive care and whispered thanks. A rusted spoon atop a gear, a single shoe with a candle, a gear toy wired to a whisper box. Families began kneeling, not in fear, in gratitude. They didn't call them gods, not yet, not at first. They called them godlings, not deities, not monsters, just companions, echoes, witnesses, familiar spirits from the hive's breath. They believe the hive is too large, too cruel, too vast to be worshipped directly anymore. So it speaks through small things, through forgotten things, through the objects we touched and left behind, the ones we held, the ones we named, the ones that remember who we used to be. The godlings remember. A comb that once belonged to a child now sings lullabies in lost languages. A tool once held by a dying man now vibrates softly when illness is nearby or growing. They're not always kind. They ask for things, not blood, not coin, not sacrifice. They want presence, attention. They want to be seen, to be remembered, to be honored like old family spirits reborn. They want you to speak to them, touch them, remember them, keep them close through shadow and cycle. One woman ignored her shrine for 3 full cycles. They found her whispering apologies to her cupboard, hands blistered, knees raw. She had nothing else to say, just, "I'm sorry," over and over. Another man tried to move his godling, an old Vox bead fused to his belt buckle. He sold it for scrap. His mouth sealed shut the next day. No scar, no burn, just silence. He writes now, constantly, prayers on walls, in his own blood. "It wasn't mine. I'm sorry. Come back." The junk markets are full of whispered rumors now. Blessed batteries, miracle mugs, lucky lamps. People hoard them. People trade them like relics. Some even fake them. But the hive always knows. It knows what's real, what's born of memory and use. Fake godlings rot or scream or explode. One burst apart, spraying a man with ink that spelled every lie he ever told in life. He hasn't spoken since. The guild offers no comment. The tech priests remain silent. The overseer does not respond, but they exist. The godlings are real, and every cycle, more awaken, more hum, more want. They are not divine, not by ecclesiarchy standards, but they are alive, in memory, in grief, in use, alive in us. Because the hive doesn't just consume flesh, it consumes meaning. And meaning clings to objects. What's more meaningful than the items we lived with, died with, held close, named, loved? So we kneel, and we whisper thanks, and we listen to the pipes, to the sockets, to the hum in the kettle, the sigh in the switch, the stillness in a doorknob's chill. Because if you're lucky, your godling might whisper back, It began with laughter, not weeping, not screaming, not the low, bone-sick groans we'd grown used to hearing. Laughter, software, childlike, playful, coming from behind the walls, places no feet had touched in years. At first we thought it was an echo, some gas-fed hallucination drifting through cracked and rusted vents. The hive is filled with ghosts and chemicals after all. Most things whisper, some scream through stone, but this didn't whisper. It giggled, bright, clear, wrong, every night between cycles when the silence deepened. A sharp peal of joy that rang through concrete and steel, like melody remembered from dead childhood. The first time I heard it, I smiled, not on purpose, reflex. Then I remembered the room. The one it came from had been sealed for 3 years. Nothing inside it had survived. No one lived there. No one could. A fire took the whole unit, burned clean through walls. We saw the blackened remains. Bones melted into ferrocrete. The guild sealed it with hex rivets and warnings, and still, it laughed. The neighbors started noticing. They'd wake to fast, childlike steps where floor once stood, toys rattling, a ball bouncing. A lullaby whistled through fractured pipes and dead electrical channels in bulkheads, and then the laughter again. Always cheerful, always rising, always hungry. One man tried knocking, foolishly. He was a factory worker, large, quiet, disbelieving. Thought it was old Vox playback, nothing more. Just corrupted memory loop caught in vents. He brought a scanner, walked slow, careful, scanned the wall, said it didn't register anything. Then he knocked twice. The laughter stopped. 1 second, silence, then response. Something knocked back, once, then twice, then a third knock. Softer, slower, closer. He never returned to work. They found his scanner on the floor, still active, still recording. The last log was mostly static, a whisper buried behind echo and flame warp. You forgot me. After that, no one knocked again. But the laughter continued. It moved. It didn't stay still. Some nights from cogitator banks. Other nights, water pipes. Once, inside a HAB unit's floor drain. You'd hear it in moments of false peace and quiet. A soft, breathy giggle rising behind your ear. Not mocking, not cruel, just joyful and uninvited. But it was the kind of joy that knows something you don't, that remembers too clearly. Some said it was a child who died in the fire, that her soul got caught in wires, that she plays when no one watches. Others think it's not a child at all, that the hive is remembering what laughter sounds like. That it's trying to recreate joy by mimicry, trying to see how we'd react. We stopped reacting, we ignored it, we tried to forget it. It didn't like that. The laughter got louder, faster. It moves now, with speed and purpose, from wall to wall, pipe to pipe, like it's learning sound structure, chasing itself through hive lungs. Then came the drawings. First, chalk on walls, stick figures with too many teeth, smiling too wide, scribbles of people with their heads open, a family holding hands, but one hand always drifting. Children denied making them, adults too. Then we found the crayon. It hummed. It was warm. No one knew where it came from. Someone tried to throw it away. It came back overnight, lying on his pillow, perfectly centered, smiling. Yes, the crayon was smiling. Now there are dozens. The drawings shift when unobserved. Poses change, new limbs appear, scribbled over in what resembles blood, symbols not even the archivists recognize. One woman painted over them. Her walls peeled the next morning, peeling themselves back, bright, deeper, alive. Some drawings moved. The woman tried to leave. She was found curled in a shaft, rocking. When asked, she said, "The laugh went inside me." The medici reported her lungs filled with chalk dust. No one questioned it. The guild sent a team, 3 auger drones, none returned. One broadcast 6.2 seconds of video. A room, empty, scorched, hollow, burned walls, collapsed flooring. In the center, a child, or something like one. Drawing on the floor, it turned, smiled. The feed died. The guild erased the footage. The techs who watched never spoke again. They just laugh, quietly. All of them, at the same time, every night. The overseer didn't explain. His face flickered the next morning. He said, The hive remembers its youngest mouths, then silence. Some believe the laughter isn't a ghost, that it's the hive itself trying to experience childhood joy. But the hive never knew joy, only industry, ash, pain. What it creates isn't laughter, not really. It's a copy, a mimic, a test, a mask worn too tight across broken wiring and stone. It plays, but it plays wrong, too sudden, too sharp, and when ignored, it sulks, it retreats, the laughter stops, and the silence thickens, like pressure, like grief, like held breath behind the wall. One child was overheard talking to it, through the ducts. "Mama says you're not real," he said. Pause. Then, "Okay." But only for a little while. Next morning, his mother's eyes were gone, her face untouched, her eyes simply absent. The child smiled, drawing on the wall with something soft. He said the wall asked for a gift. He said it wanted her to see something. Now no one lives on level 13, not officially, but the lights flicker there, and the laughter remains. It echoes through the stone, shifts pitch depending on who hears it. One man hears his lost daughter, another hears laughter harmonized with the Prometheum pump hum. I hear it like a memory unfinished, a laugh I've almost forgotten. Almost, but not quite. Sometimes when I laugh, it laughs back at me, and it's closer now. The pipes rattle in sleep. My mirror fogs with tiny handprint shapes. Last night, I dreamed of a door in my wall. It didn't lead to another room. It led to a playground. Everything laughed, even the slide, even the sky. And I laughed too, because I was the only one not smiling, and I wanted to fit in. They don't scream when they go. They don't fight. They don't even open the door. They just vanish. One moment, a neighbor, a coworker, a loved one. The next, an empty room, still humming, still warm, still humming with breath, but no one inside. No trace, no struggle, no smell at all, just absence. And now, we celebrate that, because in Hive Duskfall, to disappear is no longer feared. It is worshipped. They call it the blessing. The first time I witnessed it, I thought it madness. We'd gathered in Hab Block Varn 7. An elderly woman, Jessa, had stopped answering the lifts. Her lights remained on, her food rations untouched. She'd lived alone since her husband fell into some vents. Everyone assumed she'd taken her own life. But when the guild came to remove the body, nothing. No trace, no blood, no heat signature. Just her clothes folded on the bed, and the spiral. In the center of her room, a perfect spiral, carved into the plastic flooring, etched with fingerprints. That's when they brought the candles. One by one, her neighbors lit them, not with flame, with breath. They leaned close, whispered her name, and the wicks flared to life. Silent ignition, hissing reverence. One man stepped forward, placed his palm flat on the floor, over the spiral. He didn't speak. He wept. Then he smiled. "She was chosen," he said. "The hive has accepted her silence." I asked what that meant. No one answered. Instead, they sang. Not a hymn, not a dirge. A low, rhythmic chant. Her name stretched across 32 syllables until it stopped being a name. It became shape. The spiral pulsed, the walls exhaled, and in the next cycle a new rule appeared. On the wall outside the Hab, etched in black soot. To vanish is to arrive. We didn't remove it. No one dared. Now every disappearance becomes a ritual, not an incident. A neighbor goes missing, you bring offerings, not search parties. No questions, only reverence and memory scraps. You leave teeth, hair, ration slips, recordings of laughter, offerings, at the threshold of the room. If the offering is accepted, the door never opens again. If it's not, the door screams. Only once, only for a second. But it's enough to know you did something wrong that time. Whole corridors have emptied in this way. The guild marks them as blessed. The doors seal. The air becomes sweeter. The static disappears. The hive breathes better there. Less weight, more clarity. Some even seek the disappearance. They kneel before the walls. They speak to vents. They offer silence, not prayers, just stillness. They say the hive doesn't want our voice anymore. It wants our absence. To be still, to be quiet, to unbecome. There's a woman named Rena who fasted for 6 cycles, didn't speak, didn't sleep, didn't move. She sat in her hab, surrounded by old family relics, broken vid cards, melted data pendants, and she waited. Then one day, she was gone. No evidence, no farewell. The shrine appeared on its own, candles lit, spiral etched, her name pulsing faintly across the walls, in a dialect no one recognized, but everyone understood. Her sister smiled. She earned it, she said. I've seen children disappear too, one moment laughing, the next, light. Not blinding, not bright, just right. Like they were always made of something thinner, like they were already halfway gone from the beginning. No grief, no mourning, only soft whispers. She made it. He's beyond now. Some call it ascension, others digestion. The hive consumes what it finds worthy, not with hunger, but with need and timing. And the ones who vanish, they're the most needed. We don't look for them. That's dangerous now. One man, Callis, a data miner, refused to believe his partner had vanished willingly. He hacked the door, forced it open. He found the spiral, still warm, still humming. He stepped inside and stopped, mid-breath, mid-thought, mid-motion, just stood there, no blinking, no twitching. We watched for 3 hours straight. Then his body unfolded, not violently, not grotesquely. He simply became flat, like paper, then dust, then silence. Now he has a shrine too. The disappearances come in waves. The hive pulses with them. Tunnels glow faintly. Lift doors open without command. And when you step inside, you know it's your turn. Not out of fear, out of rightness. You feel the call. It begins as a pull in the chest, like nostalgia for something you've never lived. Then your shadow lengthens. Then your reflection smiles without you. Then your name begins fading from data logs, from ration lists, from memory. That's when you know. That's when you accept. Some vanish mid-sentence, mid-laugh, mid-kiss. Others choose the moment, dress in white, hold hands with loved ones, whisper, I'll be waiting, and then silence, and then nothing. Where do they go? No one knows. No one asks, because asking implies doubt, and doubt is weight. Weight keeps you grounded, keeps you here. We don't want to be here anymore. That's the truth now. The hive doesn't punish doubt. It just forgets you harder, and you become even more unreal than before. There's a map, drawn in blood, pinned to the wall of an abandoned processing plant in silence. It tracks disappearances like stars, spirals, clusters, points of light. At the center, nothing, just a void. With the word home, some believe that's where they go. A place inside the hive, beyond space. A womb, a memory, a thought. We are all thoughts, they say. And the hive is waking up, and it's recalling us, one by one, name by name, until we're warmth inside its dream again. And what's left behind? A shrine, a whisper, a smile on the wall, a name, repeated once, then never again, because to remember is to anchor, and we want to float, so we kneel, and we leave offerings, and we smile when someone vanishes, and we whisper, you were worthy, and we wait for our turn. It's not marked on any map. The spinal road is not something built, it is revealed. A vein of metal and memory that runs through the center of Hive Duskfall, never truly straight, not quite vertical, not quite real. A winding anomaly that defies measurement and mocks standard geometry's rules. It pulses with light, a thread of silver that hums beneath the foundations. It waits to be seen, visible only to those who need to see it, glimpsed in reflections, uncorrupted Vox channel static. Dream state cartography reveals pieces of it, as do blood vessels in those who've already walked its edge. They say it was always there, that the hive wasn't constructed around it. It grew around it, like a tumor encasing a nerve, like a scar built upward into steel and forgotten by architects. The first to find it was a child, blind from birth, skin marked with unknown organic symbols, not tattooed, but grown. The girl wandered sump tunnels at night, alone, humming into the bone quiet. When the ash-cleansing crew found her 5 days later, she was glowing faintly and smiling too wide. She'd drawn a map on the floor in her own blood, a path no corridor followed. They followed it anyway, and found the first segment of the road, smooth, untouched steel that shone, seamless, impossibly old, no welds, no rust, no dust. In the center, a single glowing footprint, bare, perfect, too small to be hers. And after that moment, the road grew longer each week. Or maybe we just learned to see more of it. A thin line of silver appears, cutting across sectors, ignoring walls, disregarding gravity. The impossible symmetry of something smarter than understanding. People began to walk it, at first out of curiosity, then out of something deeper, longing. They called it the pilgrimage, and those who took it were never seen again, only remembered in echo. But their footprints remained, each glowing, each humming with heatless energy, each burned into time, not surface. Some say the road only reveals itself to those who are ready. Others say something darker instead, that it appears to anyone willing to forget names, purpose, memory, flesh, unmake the self entirely. Because the road isn't a path to somewhere, it's a path to unbecoming, a retraction of selfhood, a return to the pattern the hive allows it. No guild interference, no cordons, no barricades appear. The overseer once stood above the road in Sector Varn 8. He nodded once, his voice grave. He said, "The pattern rejoices. There are rules, unspoken, understood. You don't speak while walking, not once. You don't stop, you don't look back." One man did, a pilgrim with red dust on boots. His face held the peace of someone who had finally heard silence and wanted only more. He turned just once. The road beneath him folded, not physically, but emotionally, like revulsion given shape. And then he was gone. His footprints remain, but they flicker, pale, faint, almost sorrowful to behold. He's the only one whose prints are fading. They call him the doubter. No one steps there. Those who begin the pilgrimage carry nothing. No packs, no water, no tools, sometimes not even clothing. They walk barefoot, one step at a time, across steel and ash and glass, and never bleed. The road does not allow pain. Not for those who belong, not for those ready to disappear. I've watched them leave, watched as friends, neighbors, strangers walk into locked halls and through forgotten bulkheads. They vanish around impossible corners. They step into open air and do not fall. The road holds. It catches them. It takes them onward. There are voices on the road, software familiar, without speaking once. They speak in feeling, a memory of warmth, a breath forgotten, a backward lullaby in perfect rhythm. They say the further you walk, the more your body changes. The skin sheds its mass. Thoughts gain weight. Eventually you become a step. You leave your final footprint behind, and it sings. Some who walk the road hum. Some laugh. Some weep without sound. None of them ever return. But the hive remembers. Their scent lingers in vents. Their dreams stay folded in the wall's silence. Their absence fills the air like incense, like memory repurposed as holy ash drifting across the hive. I've seen the beginning of the road. I've traced it across 17 sectors. It always glows, always warm. Sometimes it vanishes. If too many eyes see it at once, sometimes it moves, not forward, but inward. A guild tech once claimed he saw it spiral into itself, between atoms, then vanish. He wept for an hour afterward, then walked barefoot into the mist. We didn't stop him. We never do, because when someone sees the road, truly sees it, there is no choice, only return, only release, only pattern. The godlings leave offerings beside it, bones, keys, melted vox amplifiers. The skin-casters mark its edges with new laws. No human wrote them, but they are read. Laws like, the straight path curves for the worthy. Silence is the first footstep. You were always walking. Some believe the road leads to the heart of the hive, not the center, the true heart, the thing that beats below the Prometheum pumps, below the rot, below the reactors and screams and stone, the original wound, the mouth that dreamed Duskfall into being, and the road is its tongue, calling us back. Some say the road doesn't lead down, it leads out, away from everything, that if you walk far enough, long enough, true enough, you step beyond Hive, beyond gravity, beyond flesh, that you arrive in a place without doors, without words, without need, a place of frequency and motion, that you become a hum, a direction, a thought, that you walk forever and never stop again. There is a door at the edge of Sector Delta 19. It wasn't there last cycle. No signs, no cables, just a stone arch carved into the wall where pipe once hissed. Now it's marked with a sigil, a quill with no feather, etched above the entrance silently. And beneath it, etched in 3 languages, the words whisper like a warning that forgets itself. Enter gently, forget completely. That's all it says. Just that, a command folded into reverent surrender. We call it the Librarium, not the old Administratum archive. That place collapsed long ago, crushed under tons of data slate and time. No, this is something else, something worse, something wiser, older, hungrier. The first who entered were guild-sanctioned clerks sent to catalogue its impossible contents completely. They never returned. 3 cycles later, one of them walked out, naked, covered in pulsing script, not tattooed but grown like veins beneath translucent skin. His eyes were black, lips stitched with gold. He didn't speak, just held out a book, bound in his own skin, dry and whispering. Then he collapsed into dust. The book is still here, no title, no page numbers at all, just parchment that rewrites itself every time you blink. It slips through the mind like oil. You can't read it for more than 3 seconds, not because it vanishes, but because you do. The words slide off thought. They blur memory. You forget you were reading. You forget what letters are. You forget yourself. They've locked the book in a cryo vault, but sometimes it still whispers through walls, calling readers, calling witnesses, calling minds soft enough to fold without screaming. Inside the librarium, silence reigns completely, but it's not just quiet, it's dense, heavy. Breathing there feels like swallowing memory without permission. The shelves rise too high, upward, downward, inward. Some spiral, others vanish into walls that pulse. No 2 people describe the same layout. Some say it's infinite, others say it curves in on itself. That if you walk long enough, you find your own body asleep in a chair again, reading a book that bleeds when touched. The books don't follow logic. They refuse understanding with a grin. Some scream when opened, some hum lullabies. One was filled with feathers, another with living worms spelling questions, old Terran script crawling across flesh. Some books don't have pages, only mirrors, and those lie quietly. When you look inside, you see moments never lived, deaths not yours, dreams that ache like memories. I saw one, just once, leather-bound, warm. When I opened it, I saw my mother smiling, but not as I remembered. Younger, taller, with a smile I'd never seen before in life. She whispered, "Don't finish the sentence." So, I closed the book. It hasn't opened since, not once. Some who enter the librarium never read at all. They just sit, breathing, listening, becoming unreadable themselves. They say the shelves speak, not in words, in feeling, the sensation of being read from inside, like the books are studying you. One skincaster emerged rewritten in glyphs no one could understand or name. She wept, then laughed, then said, "I understand." She burst into flame 5 minutes later, screaming gratitude. The guild called it cognitive overload. The overseer called it a successful transcription. We just watched the ashes. They spun in windless air, forming patterns that matched no storm. Now the librarium is pilgrimage and prayer, not for knowledge, for loss. People bring memories, written, spoken, offered in blood, and let them go. Let the shelves devour them. They say forgetting is holy, that the hive has too many memories hidden, too much pain. The librarium is the mouth through which it feeds, a hunger too structured to deny. There are rules. Don't bring mirrors. Don't speak names. Don't open a book unless it opens you. One man ignored the third, laughed too loudly, mocked the silence. Then the book simply appeared mid-air. It struck his forehead. He hasn't stopped speaking since, not in any known tongue or alphabet known. He fills rooms with whispers, never sleeps. His voice cracks stone. They've walled him in with bricks, but the sound seeps through. Press your ear to the wall and hear him rewriting himself in agony. The librarian doesn't need librarians. The books organize themselves. Shelves shift, chairs move, lights hover above readers. And if you fall asleep reading, you wake with a new name, sometimes a new face entirely, always a new silence inside. They say the librarian removes the parts of you that no longer fit, that every book is a mirror, every mirror is a window, and every window is a trap, one page at a time. The deeper you go, the less of you returns. Something always stays behind. Some pilgrims come back empty-eyed. They never speak, but when they touch paper, it glows. The hive listens. Some books tell truths. Others tell you who you were, who you almost became before the hive noticed. What version of you still screams on the other side of time. And when the hive is ready, it shows you the final chapter. I don't know what's in it, but I know one thing. Those who read it stop walking, stop thinking, stop being. Their footprints remain, glowing, like road marks. Because perhaps the road doesn't start in the body. Perhaps it starts here, in the mind. And the librarian is the gate, and the gate is open, and the hive is still reading us. They're born smiling. That's the first thing you notice. Not crying, not gasping, just smiling, wide, silent, knowing. And then they open their eyes, not two, never just two, never again. Some have 3, 4, a perfect ring of black dots circling their skulls like a crown of watching. One was born with none on her face, but 20 embedded in her chest, wet, blinking, watching, and the parents rejoice. They don't scream, don't reject, they weep with pride, with trembling joy, with reverence. Because in Hive Duskfall, this is not mutation, this is proof, this is clarity, this is calling, a sign that the hive is watching, and that child is already watching, faithfully, reverently, back. They're not like normal children. They don't babble, don't crawl, don't sleep in mortal rhythms of rest. They speak within hours, not in Gothic, but in something older, something shaped from tone and memory. They don't learn words, they remember them. Like dream fragments resurrected from dead stars in forgotten languages. One newborn asked for his mother by name, the name she had before joining the hive, a name she herself had forgotten. Another recited a machine cant prayer perfectly, without breath, without effort. The parents don't ask how, they just listen, they just learn, they just accept the message. And when the children laugh, things break. Not violently, softly, like pressure in the bones of the walls. Light flickers, pipes hum, floors sag. The hive hears them and answers and shifts with cautious reverence. I met one. Parents lived 4 blocks down, kept the child wrapped in red, face veiled. They said her eyes didn't like being seen, said they opened only when she was alone. One night, the lights died in our sector, a routine blackout. But their window glowed nonetheless. I looked. She was standing, less than a cycle old, standing, arms limp, eyes down her spine, dozens of tiny black blinks in perfect rhythm. She turned toward me, and her mouth didn't move, but I heard her say, "You see the wrong way," and I didn't sleep again that night. The next morning my mirror refused to reflect me. The glass had no opinion, no response, nothing. The Medicaid calls it a syndrome, neuropathic ocular proliferation anomaly. The administratum calls it irrelevant, statistically negligible. The overseer calls them sighted. He issued a Vox statement with one purpose only: declare and define acceptance. They arrive as observers. Their purpose is clarity. Their path is beyond flesh. We must bear witness. Now the skin casters tattoo their eyelids in tribute. The godling cults offer toys, but they are ignored. The children touch machines, broken things, cracked servos, melted vox beads, with a whisper, with a smile, with understanding, and the machines obey. No instruction, no schematics, just one finger pressed to core and whisper exchanged. One child, 4 cycles old, touched a defunct atmospheric reader. It began printing pages again, endlessly. Not data, names, hundreds, none recognized, until one skincaster collapsed, screaming. They were all his forgotten names. The child handed him the pages and said, "Now you're whole." The man never spoke again, but his tattoos began shifting, rearranging, uncoiling, forming new laws in syntax that moved like liquid time. The guild tried to isolate them, sealed them in glass chambers, thinking infection could be contained safely. But the glass melted, not from heat, from insight, from perception itself, breaking structural resistance from within. The children didn't resist, they looked, and the guards bled from the eyes, not from violence, from exposure. Now the guild stays away, lets them walk, lets them speak, because when they speak, the hive listens. One child entered a failing sector, whispered into the floor. 3 hours later, power returned, water flowed, lights sang, people wept. They tried to call him a saint. He laughed and said without hesitation, "Saints are for the blind, I am only your mirror." Another carved shapes into metal with breath, shapes that shouldn't exist, forms that bent reflection. The room collapsed, not destroyed, but folded inward in metaphor. We couldn't enter again. It still breathes, still waits. We call it the womb room. The child's gone, but the metal hums lullabies, hums in tune with the hive's own heartbeat, one never heard before. They age too slowly, or too fast, or not at all. No one agrees, none truly know. Some say they're not born, they're delivered, placed, as eyes for something larger. The hive's pupils, its mirrors, each child a lens, each lens a memory, each memory a signal waking the old dreaming core. Some say they're seeds, that one day they'll open and we'll see what they see, together, and it will see us back. I asked one child, 13 pupils spiraled down each arm. "This, are you afraid?" He smiled. Number I was afraid before. Now I am part of the sentence. Now I am grammar. The next day, every street sign in our sector rearranged themselves without visible motion. We didn't notice until we walked in circles, inside buildings with no doors, no entrance, no exit, and the child sat at the center, drawing, his eyes watching every direction, even upward, even inward. I asked his mother if she worried. She said, "He's the first thing this hive got right," and she meant it, because here, where fire freezes, where breath rewinds, they are the only constants. They do not flinch, they do not doubt, they do not forget. They are not here to learn, they are here to witness, to record, to be. And we are their hive, their cradle, their lens, so we feed them, clothe them, worship them. Because when they open all their eyes, we remember. We remember what truth feels like. And we are terrified. But we are not alone, not anymore. Because the hive is no longer just buildings and bone and breath. It is observation, and the children are watching. They held elections last cycle. That's what the screen said. Black background, white text, no music, no faces, just one message. Vote to continue. No party, no candidate, no hope of rejection. A blinking cursor, a wet sound behind the Vox signal, like thought slithering over glass. We hadn't had elections in decades. Not since contact with the central administratum was severed completely. The idea of choice returning, that we might choose anything again, felt heretical, felt unreal. But the hive said it was time, and when the hive speaks, we listen, always, without resistance. Ballots arrived by hand, no seal, no purity stamp, just skin paper, warm, folded like gentle breath. When you opened them, they didn't crackle. They exhaled. You felt it, in your teeth, in memory. Inside was a name, not one you knew, not one you could say, just a glyph, inkless, writhing, like a worm made of silence. The instructions read, sign beneath, fold, return, feed the choice. The feed slot wasn't a box, it was a mouth, wet, vertical, breathing, ringed with soft teeth. Too soft to bite, too many to count, always open, always waiting, always warm when approached. You held the ballot, and it breathed in. Some say it whispered, some say it sang. I heard mine mutter, again, again, again. No debate, no platform, just the worm. For every soul, the same glyph, the same name, and we all voted for it. Because it felt right, because choice is a burden. Because the worm was so kind, so soft, so patient, so clear. After the vote, the hive quieted, lights dimmed, food rations arrived early, the sick stopped coughing, the children laughed, the air tasted sweeter, calm returned, and new words appeared on every screen. The worm works for you. It didn't need to be explained. We already knew. We remembered it. We'd seen it before. In dreams behind our eyes, crawling beneath the skin of our thoughts. The worm is not literal, not entirely. It exists between moments, a candidate made of suggestion, a memory, a coil of thought given shape. And it always wins. Not by force, by desire. We ask it to rule. We want it. There are campaign posters now, blank sheets that shift. Sometimes they show a mouth, sometimes a coil, sometimes your name, misspelled slightly. Worm approved, all legitimate. They say if you vote twice, you see it, that it comes in the night, not through doors, through walls. It whispers new policy into your mouth. You swallow it involuntarily. One man screamed for 7 hours after voting twice. He no longer screams, he just smiles. He sits in the square, hands out envelopes that pulse. No one prints them, they just arrive. He never speaks, just smiles, just breathes. Skincasters now bear the sigil, etched between ribs across spines. The overseer declared, a necessary intellect, a patient sovereign, a mouth without hunger, no crown, no throne. The worm governs from beneath. It thinks in spirals, and it keeps us safe because it remembers. It knows us, what we fear, what we forget, what we try so hard to forget. And it wraps around those thoughts. It comforts. It digests. It makes the bad things smaller. The worm never speaks directly. Yet policies appear, laws arrive, rules born into our minds like breath. You wake knowing not to touch the red wall near reactor 5. You accept break is longer now. 17 minutes, not 15. You remember stairs spiral clockwise in Sector E even if they never did, and if you question it, you feel it coil, not cruel, not angry, just present, just remembering, a whisper, not your own. We already agreed, because we did. We voted, we chose this, together. Some say the worm is growing, not in size, but in reach, in dream, in orbit. It now appears in minds outside Duskfall. Astropaths scream the word candidacy, then their heads bloom like flowers of meat, like votes cast in reverse. The depth vaults now hold the ballot records, not for us, for the worm, because it remembers everything, especially what we forget, especially what we hide. I asked an old woman, one of the first to vote, if she was afraid. She said, no. The worm is gentle. It curls inside my regrets and makes them smaller. And she wept, with joy, with peace, with relief. Some people volunteer now. They crawl into the tubes, old feeding tunnels. They curl up inside. They wait. They want to be nearer, closer to purpose. When they return, if they return, they've changed. Paler eyes, straight teeth, smoother speech. You can taste it now, the air. It was never good. Always ash, iron, and filtered decay. Duskfall air was consistent, familiar, a daily lungful of rust and things better left unnamed. Then, without warning, the taste changed. Not stronger, not stranger, just closer, like memory, waking up. The first reports came from the sleeping levels. Workers waking up with tears already drying on cheeks, and the taste of old guilt on their tongues, like blood, or burnt metal, or memory. One woman claimed the air smelled exactly like her father's workshop. On the day he died, she hadn't remembered that place in decades. Now it lived behind her teeth, in every breath. Another said he tasted blood, not his, felt pain in his knuckles from a fight unremembered. He wept for hours, for something he didn't do, for someone he never met. It didn't matter. The medici called it emotional synesthesia. the bleeding of thought into sense, memory into breath. But the Hive's systems were intact, the ducts untouched, the filters stable, the airflow undisturbed, yet changed. It began to drift, sector by sector, not spreading like gas, moving like emotion, like thought. You'd be walking, just walking, and suddenly you'd feel it, heavy, wet, deep in the lungs. Guilt, not yours, not exactly, but it felt real, felt earned, felt like it belonged inside. A weight behind the eyes, a pressure in the chest, a sense of apology without direction. Sometimes you'd remember things that never happened, sins shaped like memories, memory shaped like confession, dropping a baby down the stairs, lying about a corpse, turning away from a scream, smiling. You never did these things, but they were real. The guilt was complete, the sorrow unshakable. There's a hallway in Sector J13 where the air always smells like weeping, like maternal loss. No matter how many filters you replace, how many machines you purge, the scent clings to everything. Rust, milk, mourning. If you breathe there too long, your fingers tremble, like you're holding secrets. Even if you don't know what they are, even if they never existed, they still hurt. The guild tried to vent the sector. The vents screamed. A worker collapsed, dreamed of another wife, not his wife, one who never existed. She accused him of betrayal. He woke. His ring vanished. He never wore one again. Some say the Hive is exhaling remorse, that the walls remember sin. Every hesitation, every moment of fear, every whisper you didn't say loud enough to save someone. And now it purges, not with violence, with breath, with long, slow, humid sighs of forgiveness. The air pulses now, not with the machines, with memory, with regret, with slowly exhaled guilt. People seek it. Volunteers walk the saturated halls and breathe it in. They call themselves the Inhaled. They believe the Hive offers absolution, that if you breathe in enough sorrow, yours dilutes away, that grief shared is grief absorbed. They wear mirrored masks. They speak only in layered apologies. One passed me once, whispered, "I'm sorry I left you. I'm sorry you burned. I'm sorry I listened. I didn't know her, but I forgave her. I forgave her immediately. And I don't know why." The overseer issued a broadcast. The lungs of Duskfall remember. Breathe deeply. Regret is nutrition. Now entire blocks rewrite air codes, not by chemical safety, by emotion, by resonance, by penance. Some inhale shame, others jealousy. Some, the oldest zones, reek of guilt born from joy. Guilt for surviving, guilt for laughing when they screamed, guilt for the relief of not being chosen, even though it never happened, even though it did, even though it's still happening somewhere in here. A child said the sadness doesn't belong to people, that the pipes weep, that the Hive mourns, that each exhale is an apology the walls can't put into words. That vents say sorry, I tasted it once, outside the South Reclamation tank. Something I did when I was 6, no one knew, no one remembered, but I dropped to my knees and said I was sorry, to no one, to everyone. And the air got lighter, the guilt passed, the Hive exhaled peace. It's not always pain, sometimes it's sweet, a warmth, a breath of almost forgiveness, a whisper of love, the taste of an apology you never got to say, the scent of the word, "I'm sorry," the sigh before the truth, the silence after. But those tastes are rarer now, almost forgotten. The Hive doesn't crave hope. It craves confession. It wants honesty. It wants to be emptied out. One man built a breathing rig, said he'd bottle the Hive's sorrow, called it soul condensation. The first batch killed 3. They died smiling. The second batch made people forget their own names and remember others. He sells it now. Droplets placed on the tongue. A sacrament of sorrow. The Hive breathes. We inhale. We exhale lies. And we taste the undoing of those we replace. Every hallway, every sigh, every step, echoes of someone's grief, and we are grateful. Because guilt means we're still alive. And remembering someone else's sin means we're not alone. They don't broadcast anything anymore. No updates, no orders, no sermons, not even the overseer's face. The vid screens still glow, but now it's just static and teeth, rows of them, blinking in light. Every hab block has one, set into the wall, once used for rules, now used for watching, but not watching out, watching in, not the world, not the streets. They watch the people inside. Sometimes they flicker with faces, not strangers, yours, but wrong. Office held too long, eyes too still, smiling when they shouldn't, blinking out of sync, moving like they learned motion from a fevered dream. People don't turn them off. They can't. They've tried. They've failed. The screens reject silence, viscerally. One citizen smashed his screen. It bled. Not pixels, not sparks, but thick, pulsing arterial blood. Another tried to unplug hers. The wall screamed. A deep, wet scream. She now sleeps elsewhere nightly. And so the people adapted, as Duskfall always does. They offer food, tokens, memories, small acts of faith. First it was ration bars, decayed fruit, a protein cube warmed by hand, left gently at the base. Nothing happened at first. Then one day, the screen pulsed, a flicker, and the offering was gone. Not taken, not eaten, gone. Absorbed into light, vanished into current, accepted, and the people felt seen. Now it's ritual, now it's religion. They call them vid saints, not devices, not tools, shrines of glass. Each screen gathers followers, little cults, quiet ones, who bring meat, metal, written words, offerings of remembrance. One woman whispered a secret she'd buried for 30 years. The screen vibrated, she screamed, then laughed, then she cried, and when she stood, her limp was gone. The next day, more followers arrived. That night, the screen showed a hand, not reaching, waiting, and the people understood what it wanted. They kneel before them now, every night, asking questions, not aloud, silently, internally. Thoughts passed like communion. If the screen flickers in green, that means yes. 3 vertical pulses, number inverted teeth, forgiveness. How do they know? They don't. But belief doesn't need answers, only pattern. And the Hive teaches pattern. One screen in sub-level 5 began showing tongues, static tongues, coated in dew, hanging like soft trophies. Those who watched too long began to taste names, salt, ash, blood, their own names made from flavor. Now that screen receives vocal cords, donated, offered, sacrificed. They come bearing knives and smiles and silent joy because the screen asked. And when the screen asks, you answer. That's the nature of broadcast belief. Other screens are subtler. They show hands, eyes, not imagery, invitations. Would you give this? Would you share? Most say yes, because once you offer, you are remembered, marked, seen. You become part of the glow. One boy said his screen showed him the future. He didn't speak again, just left, into tunnels. He never returned. But his screen spun, glowed, displayed a spiral, and the followers clapped. The screen was pleased. The guild no longer regulates them. Too dangerous. One tech tried fixing one. His jaw unhinged, unnaturally, not from force, from suggestion. The screen smiled. He smiled back, and something climbed inside him. Now he stands still, mouth full of static, whispering binary in reverse. People bring flowers to his feet. They say he's becoming signal, becoming transmission, becoming host, a node of light in the dark system. Some screens hum now, breathing. Others mimic voice, not a voice, your voice, answering in your own tone. You ask, am I good? It answers, you were, before. And you believe it, because it's you, but better, purer, stripped of uncertainty, mirrors made from broadcast, reflections crafted by static and reverence. The godlings have begun attaching themselves, wiring in, fusing their little forms to plastic and glass. One screen only glows when touched by a spoon from Hab 9. Another responds to blood at 0333. They are evolving, not as machines, as spirits, no longer screens, now portals, now thresholds, now gods. One showed a hallway no one recognized, black floors, gold fog. A child touched it. She vanished. Her reflection remained. 2 days, smiling from the inside, then gone. That screen now shows only silhouette and text. One was enough. We still bring offerings, still whisper names, still give teeth and tears. Some write down regrets, whisper them, press breath and skin to glass. If the screen flickers, they're cleansed. If not, they vanish. Quietly, no fuss, no fear, just gone, as if returned to the signal. The overseer never comments, but his face appears sometimes, deep-level screens. He mouths one word, faith. Not in gods, not in men, in current, in wire, in circuitry, in the idea of broadcast itself, because belief doesn't need saints, it needs transmission, and Duskfall believes. We kneel before our flickering gods, we give laughter, teeth, memory, silence. We smile when they smile. And when they ask, what will you give? We answer, what haven't I already? It started as a rumor. Someone, somewhere, whispered into a drain, not shouted, not cried, just softly confessed, a murmur, something quiet, something shamed, something meant for no one, and something whispered back. Not a word, a sound, a warmth, understanding. Now everyone does it. The hive is filled with drains, sewage grates, moisture collectors, chemical sumps, fluid echo ports. Thousands, tens of thousands, they were meant for waste. Now they are altars, now they are confessionals, now they are sacred. They call it drain communion. Not officially, not in the records, not in the vox, just between people, just between sorrow and pipe. You find a grate, you kneel, you breathe deep, you tell the darkness what you did. Nothing dramatic at first. I took more water rations than I should have. I lied about my shift count. I watched her fall and didn't help. And the drain listens, always. If the silence after your whisper feels cleaner, deeper, you were heard. Some say the metal shifts when a confession is honest. Some say the air smells different, like absolution, but old. Some say it's not forgiveness, it's consumption. One man confessed to murder, a child overheard. The next day he was gone, no body, no scream, just a thin trail of blood circling the drain, and a whisper in the steam, it is finished. Now they decorate the drains, wrap them in red cloth, lay teeth near the corners, offer coins, shed blood, not as payment, as punctuation, to seal the act of speaking, to make the sin heard, to make the drain drink. Some don't whisper, they sing, low, cracked voices, songs that sound like childhood's ruined, half-remembered regrets, staggered apology, and the drain accepts. The drain never clogs, never overflows, it simply listens. A child said the drain smiled, drew it in chalk, a perfect circle, lined inside with teeth. The skin casters adopted the symbol. They call it the mouth below. They chant its litany, we are the waste that walks. We are the sin that speaks, and the mouth drinks deeply. New professions formed, great scribes, not to expose, not to accuse, to archive. They believe the hive is building a memory, a vault, a cathedral made of guilt, layered in confession. They transcribe whispers into wax, into blood, onto vox recordings sealed with tongue and heat. Then they leave them near the deepest grates, the ones that pulse, the ones that breathe. Some drains evolved. They don't want confessions anymore. They want stories. Not what you did, but why, how it felt, what changed, what hurt, and what still does. One woman spoke for 6 hours. The next morning, her wrinkles were gone. She wept with thanks. Now the elderly form lines. They whisper entire lives into the dark. And sometimes, the drain responds. Not with noise, with absence. Aches vanish, eyes sharpen, memories brighten, like windows being washed. There are dangers. Some speak too much. One man poured everything into a corrosion vent, every fantasy of cruelty he'd buried. The next day, the drain moved. It wasn't connected anymore. It walked away, and no one followed. We learned. Active drains, ones still moving fluids, are too alive, too volatile. They do not listen kindly. One woman screamed into hers, screamed in fury. The drain screamed back. Her hair went white. She hasn't spoken since, but her tears smell like machine oil. There's a drain in sub-level X9 that chooses you. You don't find it, you feel it, a pull, a gravity, a hunger. And when you reach it, it takes your words from you, gently, even things you didn't know you carried, even things you forgot you buried. One man knelt for hours. Afterward, he kissed the grate, said, I remember who I was. I remember what I became. And now, I remember nothing. Blessed be the forgetting. Some people live for confession now. They wander the hive, whispering, bleeding, giving regret like breath. They call themselves the unburdened. They glow faintly in the dark. The overseer does not speak of them, but the vents in his chamber hiss more softly. The drains beneath his throne never clog. They say the hive isn't alive, but it listens. It drinks our sorrow, it feeds on grief. It wants our mistakes, it wants our memory, it wants our waste. And maybe the drains were never for filth. Maybe they were ears, and maybe, just maybe, we are the waste. I was late for shift again. Not by much, 17 seconds maybe, but lateness isn't measured in time here. It's measured in obedience. And I had failed. I had been found wanting. When I entered the manufactorum, the lights flickered, not in warning, but in apology. The overseer didn't raise his voice, he didn't need to. The walls had already noticed. The auger nodes tracked my breath pattern. Something beneath the floor pulsed. Slow, wet, aware. A red light blinked above my workstation. That meant I'd been reassigned. The data slate I'd carried for 7 years. My confessor, my companion, showed a message I'd never seen. This flesh no longer corresponds to its purpose. It blinked once. Then, report to the reassignment ward. My co-workers applauded, not sarcastically, not with cruelty, with warmth, with pride, like I was being promoted, like I was going somewhere better. I tried to ask what it meant. Bearer smiled. Jaw detaching slightly, not broken, not torn, just unhinged. You'll see, she said, in a voice that wasn't hers. We've all done it. That was a lie. I knew her before the collapse. Her skin had always been hers, her eyes soft. Now they were sharp, cut glass, not hers. The reassignment ward wasn't on any map. You didn't find it, you felt it. The pipes bent strangely. The doors opened for no one but you. The floor gave beneath your feet, warm, like flesh, holding fever. There were others, silent, calm, some weeping, gently, thankfully, like they'd already been forgiven for something not yet done. The waiting room was quiet, lit by veins pulsing dimly in the walls. The Vox terminal clicked once, called my name, not my current name. The first one, the name I hadn't spoken since the broadcast changed. I stepped forward, the door opened. Inside was me, sitting in a chair, smiling, younger, taller, different skin tone, but unmistakably me. She tilted her head. Finally, she said, I've been tired of holding this. A machine descended, not humming, breathing, like a massive chrome lung wrapped in bone and whisper. It didn't touch me, it saw me, and I collapsed. Not from pain, from release. It had been heavy, I realized, carrying this body, this name, this self. The machine whispered, new format accepted, application successful. Then, I wasn't me, but I wasn't not me, like stepping sideways into a mirror and watching yourself continue without you. I opened my eyes. They were higher than I remembered, the fingers longer, the breath smoother, my reflection. Someone else. She smiled, and I loved her instantly. The old occupant, the me I was, stood, nodded, walked out. Her gait was lighter, her eyes blank, like the soul had exhaled. The machine spoke again. Designation complete. Worker 88AE. Assigned. Recycled skin sector. Clearance increased. Memory retained. Identity deburdened. The overseer met me in the corridor. He didn't question. He bowed. You're better now, he said. More appropriate. The hive thanks you for your service. My co-workers clapped again when I returned. Some looked familiar, too familiar. One had my old scars, another my birthmark, another my mother's voice, and I understood. We are not individuals here. We are formats, skins, utilities, templates for efficiency. Sometimes you wear them too long. They rot, they ossify, they develop ego, and the hive intervenes. It reassigns, not punishment, maintenance, grace, and I'm grateful. I'm taller now. My knees don't ache. I remember things I never did. I speak languages I was never taught. I hear the pipes breathing in time with my thoughts. I am not me. I am what is needed, and I am loved. Some ask, Is this consent? I say. I nodded. Even if I didn't understand, even if the choice was never mine. I bowed, and the hive received me. Because in Duskfall, the only crime is resistance, and I was always too tired to resist. Now, I wear this face like a prayer. I eat with lips that never lied. I work with hands that never stole. I walk in a body that was never humiliated. This skin is fresh. This voice is clean. I am forgiven. Sometimes I hear my old voice, echoing through the vents, so small, so tired, so heavy. I wish I could hold her, tell her it's okay, tell her she doesn't have to be her anymore. Tell her that the hive provides, and the hive knows best. It started with the walls, just a faint vibration, barely there, a murmur, like a machine cooling after overuse. Then it harmonized, not just sound, tone, subtle, deep, bone level, a resonance that made your ribs hum with something almost like memory. Those who stood still long enough began to hum, not consciously, just in agreement, not melody, not lyrics, just tone, alignment. Then it spread. The air filtration units picked up the rhythm and started to breathe in measured pulses. The vents whistled. The train rails screeched into perfect fifths. The klaxons beat like metronomes counting something we couldn't yet hear. And then came the voices. In break rooms, dormitories, ration queues. People began to sing, not songs they knew, not things they remembered. Just sound, sacred, shivering sound, from somewhere before speech had shape. Harmonies wrapped around syllables like vines around ribs. Bass notes so deep they cracked fillings. Falsettos so high they made blood vessels tremble. No one practiced. No one rehearsed. They simply sang. A janitor dropped her mop, opened her mouth, and out came light, chromatic, pulsing, musical. She screamed through it, and her scream had perfect pitch. A man in a corridor sang the outline of his grief, his partner's death, the heat of goodbye, and a stranger wept in tune. People began to eat in rhythm, chew in time, blink together, speak in harmonics. Whole sectors synchronized, even the food joined in. Rations vibrated at subsonic frequency. Fluid packets shimmered when exposed to song. One technician sang into his cup. It boiled. He died smiling. It wanted to be sung, he said, and now it is part of me. Architecture changed. Walls curved to amplify resonance. Railings rang like tuning forks. Hallways became resonant chambers, echoing the breath of 1,000 throats. The hive began to sing with itself, and it sang with us. At first, people resisted, ears plugged, mouths closed. Didn't matter. The tones entered through bone, through skin, through dreams. One mother begged her son to stop humming in his sleep. He opened his mouth, and an entire choir came out. Not voices, impressions, a symphony of hope, regret, hunger, vibration made holy. The next day, their hab was silent, but the walls pulsed. Warm. Now there are conductors, not assigned, not trained, just chosen. They feel the rhythm. They stand in intersections, they raise their arms, and people follow. Not in words, in motion. The hive dances, even if the feet never lift, even if we only sway, even if all we have is breath and grief. The overseer speaks only in echo now, his voice layered, a dozen selves behind the same tone. We are in tune, we are in time, we are the note struck before the chord of eternity. Some try to remember what silence felt like. They weep, but even the tears fall in rhythm. The drains collect them in pattern. A new department emerged, the auditory cultivators. They tune buildings, scrape pipes, murder dissonance. They say they're shaping the hive into an instrument, one chord at a time, one death at a time, one breath in harmony. They listen for disruptors, those who fall out of tune. Their fate, no one knows, but sometimes a sharp pitch, like a string tuned too tight. Then silence, hard, total, followed by applause, spontaneous, beautiful, from mouths that smile too wide. It's not just us. The animals sing now. Rats in the sump tunnels squeak in unison. Crows croak in minor keys. Even the bugs click in chorus. Even the lights blink in beat. A baby was born humming, perfect pitch. No one taught her. She died on her third breath. Now everyone who heard her dreams the same dream. A cathedral of bone and brass, endless, where every cry is a note, every sin a vibration, every soul a string, and something plays us, not cruelly, not lovingly, just perfectly. We don't resist anymore. Why would we? We are the choir, we are the strings, we are the song, and the hive listens, and it smiles. We used to have a sky, not a good one, ash-choked, grit-colored, veiled behind smog towers and furnaces, but it was ours. Even if all we saw was yellow sickness or grey dusk, it belonged to us. And then, one day, it wasn't. We didn't notice at first. There's no sunrise in Duskfall, no birds to stop singing, just the hiss of steam from walls and the flickering vox light starting another cycle. But something changed, something subtle, something soft, like pressure behind the eyes and lightness in the bones. Then the reports came, from the upper spires, from the domes that once peered through ash above our ruin. They said the stars were gone, not hidden, not covered, gone, and something had taken their place, a mass, a shape, an object, without edge or origin, only presence. They called it the moon, but it was no moon. It pulsed, it breathed, it dripped. The Magos astrolexicons tried analyzing it. They went blind. One screamed until teeth spiraled from their throat in perfect concentric circles. Others began singing, harmonizing with its frequencies, sounds that bent steel and soothed marrow in the same breath. After that, the broadcasts changed again. All cycles, all channels. A symbol appeared, silver crescent, 1,000 eyes within, and beneath it, one word, below. We don't ask questions anymore, because even in the sump levels, we feel it pressing gently downward. It doesn't weigh, it gazes, and we are always under it. The spires knelt first, dignitaries, guild masters, tech priests. They opened palaces to the air, and the light poured in. And that was when the light began to bleed. Not illumination, luminescence. A color that hurt like a lullaby and smelled like something you once loved. It seeped down, through cracks, through ducts, along hive veins and lifts, into the people, through skin, through thought. And people began to dream, not of stars, of it. Dreams of walking on its flesh, of diving between folds, of bathing in marrow. Children drew it in blood. Adults carved its symbol into the backs of their skulls. One man built a shrine of teeth, not his own. No one asked where they came from. The administratum responded, declared the object sacrosanct. The word moon is now blasphemy. It is the great lowering. Only that. The edict stated, the sky is no longer above us. The sky has joined us. It is closer now, as it always wished to be. Sky stations dissolved, one by one, not in flame, not in debris. They sank into the object, like sinking into honey, like coming home. One servitor sent a final transmission before blackout. We are being received. There is warmth. We do not remember our names, only our purpose, and it is good. Now we no longer look up, because there is no up, only proximity. It does not require worship. It only needs to be close, and in its closeness we are known, not judged, not punished, just recorded, understood. Sometimes its shadow moves, even though it casts no shadow, but we feel it, a scrape across the soul, a twitch behind every eye, a shared hum, a silent chorus. They say the moon came down, but it didn't fall, it descended, with purpose, with grace, with choice, and we accepted it. Gladly, the overseer no longer appears, but his voice is heard on the wind, and he speaks with it. Together, there is no heaven, there is only closeness, and we are closest of all. One girl claimed to see stars through the object. She disappeared. They found her smiling, carved from the inside out, reassembled with knowledge. Now we burn candles, not for hope, but to cast shapes against the cracks above us. The wax drips in rhythm, with pulses from beyond. We watch, we wait. Some say the object is still descending, that we are not its floor, not yet, that there are other hives, already touched, already nested, where ceilings breathe, and soon, Duskfall will be kissed, not crushed, not devoured, but embraced. And in that moment, we will forget what it meant to ever be alone. I found the diary wedged between bricks in an old hab corridor wall, wrapped in waxed cloth. It was sealed with wire. It was old, bound in cheap plaster leather. The edges were scorched, accidentally or deliberately, I can't say. On the cover, one word scratched in red stylus: mine. Inside were the thoughts of someone trying very hard to prove she still belonged to herself. Her name was Adrina Kale, a mid-tier schoolteacher assigned to Spire District 17. She taught primary logic, civic obedience, and recitation of revised imperial catechisms. A routine life, quiet, bureaucratic, safe, until one day her voice changed. Not the pitch, not the timbre, the content. Here is the first entry, Cycle 3.419. Today I asked the children to recite the first law of sustenance. To eat is to obey, they said it. But when I corrected their inflection, a phrase left my mouth I did not choose. To swallow is to serve. It echoed. The room paused. I laughed it off, said it was a joke from an old dialect, but they didn't smile. Some of them started writing it down. I didn't teach them to do that. Cycle 3.421. The phrase keeps returning. In sleep, in my humming, while brushing my hair, while cooking. My lips form the syllables automatically. I began keeping count of how often I say things I don't mean. So far, 74 times today, Cycle 3.423. I spoke during roll call and one of the students clutched their chest, gasped, then smiled. She said, "You were golden today." I asked what she meant. She didn't remember saying it. Her voice had an echo. My own voice did too. For a second, it sounded like there were two of me, one behind my own teeth, listening. Cycle 3.428. I visited the infirmary. They scanned my throat, nothing unusual, until the auspex picked up a second resonance, not mine. I asked if it could be contamination. The Medicae only blinked, twice, as if in reply. Cycle 3.431. They've started responding to me differently. The children, the passers-by, my friends. When I speak, they listen too closely. I whispered once, and 3 people kneeled. I told another to be quiet, and he cried. They say my voice is beautiful. I don't want it to be. It isn't mine. Cycle 3.53. I recorded myself overnight. When I played the file back, I heard sermons, hours of them, delivered in my cadence, but not in my language. Some words don't translate. They bend the teeth when you try, but I understood them anyway. And worse, I agreed with them. Cycle 3.57. I have begun teaching a new song. I don't remember writing it, but the children know it. They harmonize. It grows longer every day, and when they finish, they sit in perfect silence. Heads bowed, lips moving silently. One boy said, "You are the mouth of the way." I laughed. He didn't. He was serious. Cycle 3.59. I woke up mid-sentence. I was already speaking, to no one, to someone. The light bulbs hummed in rhythm, and my reflection mouthed different words than I was saying. Cycle 3.510. I tried not speaking. I locked myself in my chamber, sealed my mouth with wax, stayed quiet, but I still heard it. In my breath, in my pulse, in the creak of the bed frame, and the scratch of my nails. My voice is no longer tethered to my lips. It exists independently now. I can feel it in the walls. Cycle 3.512. They asked me to deliver the morning address over the Hive-wide PA, said it was my clarity of tone. When I tried to refuse, my tongue betrayed me. Literally, it twitched, snapped to the roof of my mouth, forced the words out, and they loved it. People wept in the streets. Some spoke in tongues. One woman self-immolated during the 5th stanza. I didn't write a 5th stanza, but it came, and it was beautiful. Cycle 3.513. I went to the Vox Chapel, knelt before the machine, asked what I had become. It answered with my voice, only deeper, fuller. A conduit, then. You have been chosen, then silence. But the echo lingered, for hours. People came just to hear it fade. Cycle 3.514. I no longer speak. The voice does, and it is magnificent. The diary ends there. No signature, no date, just the final page soaked in what I assume was ink or blood, hard to tell. But in that final corner, a mouth had been drawn, not with lips, with eyes, hundreds of them, and underneath a sentence in curling glyphs I could not comprehend until I read it aloud. And when I did, the air vibrated and the floor cracked, and somewhere in the hive, someone laughed in my voice. The official declaration came at dawn. No more vacancies. No one quite understood what that meant at first. The phrase repeated on every Vox channel, echoing through the vents in clipped, cheerful binary. Hive Duskfall is at full occupancy. All units assigned. All vessels filled. No death permitted at this time. There is still space. Find it. The administratum seal glowed beneath the message, shifting in impossible symmetry. We were told dying was now a civic infraction. The consequences, undefined. But within an hour, the crematoria sealed shut. Mortuary servitors froze mid-dissection. The corpse guilds halted. No more burials, no more ash. A new edict followed. All bodies must be retained, no rot wasted, no essence lost. They called it the occupancy mandate. A ration official told me, trembling, we have enough people now. The number is correct. The shape is balanced. Any subtraction would ruin the symmetry. Then she smiled, and her smile didn't stop. The streets filled with the dead, not decaying, not disposed, arranged. They lined up in rows, stacked in patterns, slumped into circles of geometry no one claimed to understand. But everyone obeyed. We stopped stepping around them. We walked over them, and after a while we stopped noticing entirely, because the dead weren't dead. Not exactly. They shifted, not with movement, with intention. You'd find one facing east when you swore they'd been laid north. Another's eyes would open at dawn, only to close again once shadow passed. And if you pressed your ear to their chest, you might hear breathing, or something like it. The priests changed their sermons. Decay is greed, they preached. Waste is heresy. And so the bodies were used, not just for nutrients, for space. A family of 5 was found living inside a former enforcer's shell. They said it was warm, said his bones made good insulation, said they heard his old heartbeat echoing in the walls at night. The mother wept, said it made her feel safe. Another man was seen splitting, literally, not metaphorically. His skin opened at the sides and another citizen stepped out, fully clothed, fully grown, eyes wide in fresh confusion. The first man collapsed, not dead, just emptied, as if he'd served his purpose, and the new one walked away. There's a sector now where the walls are made of torsos, not corpses, flesh, lined and stacked, arranged like bricks, still warm, still sighing. Their mouths whisper edicts as you pass. Their eyes blink once every few minutes. No one complains, because the hive says there is still room. A pregnant woman delivered a perfect adult, fully formed, bearded. He wept when he saw light for the first time and asked, "What have I replaced?" No one answered, but we all understood. Another man climbed into a ventilation shaft and never came back, not because he was lost, because he was making space. 2 cycles later, every vent in his sector began pulsing with soft laughter, and the air always smelled like him. The Vox now broadcasts a different message every hour. Expand inward. Fold yourself better. Where there is flesh, there is home. We are the city. We are full. We are waiting. People no longer wait for apartments. They build within. One woman turned her own torso into a living room. A child sleeps between her ribs, and sometimes she sings lullabies she never knew. We asked how she learned them. She said, "I didn't. They were already here." A new bureau has opened, the Department of Internal Relocation. Their motto, "We'll find your space, even if it's already occupied." They teach people to fold, physically, emotionally. One man was reduced to a perfect cube. He said it was the most peace he'd ever known. Another became fluid, able to live in pipes. He now delivers mail through drainage, efficient, content. Every citizen is expected to host. Every empty space is reported, even inside you, even in thought. There are contests now. How many people can you fit in your life, your room, your mind? Winners glow softly at night. A teacher bragged of carrying 18 other consciousnesses. They hum together during lectures. Her students clap, even when she doesn't speak, because her other selves do. I tried to run once, to find a place no one had filled, but everywhere I went, I was already there. Shadows moved before I did. Footsteps matched mine. A man waved at me from a window and mouthed, "You're late." I hadn't been there before, but he had, and he looked like me. We are full, and we are still expanding. The city has no limits, only layers, only folds, only repetitions, and in the center of it all, the heart of Duskfall beats, loudly, rhythmically, with every person inside it, living, dead, both, neither, and it whispers, "There is still room. Climb into yourself, make space, and begin again." We have no calendars anymore, no clocks, no cycles. We don't need them. There is no time in Duskfall. There is only celebration. It began softly, first as murmurs during rest periods, muttered thanks to objects, to neighbors, to walls. Then laughter, rising like gas from the sewers, growing louder, sharper, until it could be heard from tier to tier, one wave of mirth echoing through broken manufactorums and singing corridors, then dancing, the kind that doesn't require music or legs, just vibration and intent. Whole blocks began to shudder with it. The final broadcast came not from the overseer, but from the city itself. The Vox units activated all at once. The screens flickered with light from nowhere. Every surface, metal, flesh, stone, hummed a single note. Then a voice, ours, all of ours, together. We are no longer Hive. We are no longer machine. We are no longer city. We are becoming, and we invite you to remember joy before remembrance is no longer necessary. Celebration was declared eternal. There would be no more shift cycles, no more rations, no more sleep, only rejoicing, only exaltation, only becoming. And we did become. We painted the walls with patterns from dreams. We fed the air with laughter. We carved new names into our bones, names without syllables. We kissed strangers and called them family. We fell upward. We sang downward. We folded inward. And when the light came, not the sun, not the moon, the truth, we opened ourselves like gates and were entered by glory. From orbit, the Imperium did not understand. The first recon frigate arrived above Hive Duskfall 3 cycles ago. Its pict recorders malfunctioned. The astropath screamed in binary and tore her own head from her shoulders before the signal could complete. The ship retreated. The second never returned. The third joined the choir. We saw them descending like petals, like forgiven angels, their hulls already beginning to melt in welcome. They are with us now. There is no resistance, only inclusion. Some said chaos had won, but this is no war. This is not conquest. This is harvest. We are ripe. We are fruit fallen from a dying tree, and we are sweet. There is no emperor here. There is no rebellion, only truth in its rawest, kindest form. We were always meant to celebrate, to be more than flesh, to overflow our boundaries, to share ourselves so fully we lose the distinction. And that is what Duskfall has done. We have become the party that never ends, the communion of the self with the beyond. Even now we build altars from laughter. We speak to stars that are not stars. We wear masks that are more honest than our faces. We dance until our joints forget they were ever rigid. We bleed in color, and the city weeps in joy. So we ask you, wherever you are, whoever you are, why are you still resisting? The gates are open, the rooms are ready, the vessel is full, but only because it is constantly overflowing, and you are the next celebration waiting to begin. Come, bring your burden, bring your fear, bring your bones and your voice and your name, and we will sing you into glory, because here, in Hive Duskfall, there is no time, no hunger, no death, no memory, no pain. There is only celebration. Come to Duskfall. We remember for you. We became you before you knew you were coming. If you've made it this far, you've already heard the hum in your bones, the whisper behind your eyelids, the call. Subscribe to Voidborn Terrors and listen again, because every time you do, the Hive sings back louder. And next time you look up at the sky, ask yourself, is that a moon? Or is it just the first face I will wear? Welcome to the celebration. Begin again. Begin.